So you guys have been watching, every episode up into this point, and I assume you're watching the fashion as much as anything else. Is anyone in the TV show wearing a bolo tie? Because the Buddy Garrity character in the movie has a scene where he is wearing a bolo tie, and that seems like such a Texas thing to me.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't remember a single bolo tie in the entirety of the series. And it's been a long time since I've seen it, but do you guys remembering any of that?
The first thing I was going to say is I would assume it would be Buddy. So that, but maybe I'm mixing up the movie.
Because in the movie, he has an amazing bolo tie.
You know what's crazy though? I'd say 90% sure that when Peter Berg is in a couple or maybe just one episode later on in the series, I'm 90% sure he's wearing a bolo tie.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Peter Berg himself.
Someone is doing it.
We will going forward do a bolo tie lookout.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just the Jordan Erickson sponsored bolo tie lookout. Count
Jordan,
the bolo ties.
So Much Movies presents the Jordan Erickson bolo tie spotting of the episode.
Yeah. Because it's got to happen, but I've never even thought about it.
I would appreciate that.
As we record this, it is Thanksgiving, and I of course watched Son-in-Law today, as I am wont to do.
Yes.
And the boyfriend or the hometown boyfriend of Carla Gugino, he is wearing a bolo tie in the scene where he proposes at the country club, and I for some reason did notice that. So maybe I
that was maybe more of an 80s 90s thing. I think the mid-aughts really went for the open collar. And I think that's
which is a shame.
When I think of Buddy Garrity, I think of him with the more open collar and the suit coat.
Yep, you're right.
Bring back the bolo tie. That's my 2020s decade resolution.
Clear eyes, full hearts, bolo ties on our necks.
Can't lose.
Can't lose.
All right, folks, this is a very, very special episode. I feel like we've been talking about it for months. That's because in real life we have. On the podcast, it's only been a couple weeks since we've mentioned it.
But there's probably episodes of the podcast that are like episodal that'll come out after this. That'll be like, so we're going to link up with our friends in So Much Movie.
In a year from now when you've caught up.
Yeah. But we are excited to have these guys on. They are also Platt Black Panthers at heart. It's the Erickson brothers. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Jordan Erickson. I am the brother that gets really excited about things that have a Wikipedia.
I'm Tyler. Not going to tell you my last name. Let's see. I'm the one who you can look forward to saying something about America, probably.
Which one of you is going to dip into Anthony's political territory first?
Oh boy,
that's a great question. I got something in the chamber, but I don't know if I'm ready to go for it yet.
Normally, I would say me, but Jordan a week ago told me what his thoughts were about Peter Berg, so might go him.
Yeah, we do, as you know, have a segment on the show. It's become pretty regular called Anthony Gets Political. So.
I have thought that about our podcast quite a few times. There have been ones where I'm like, let's try not to.
Let's steer up. Oh, you can't.
Nope, not possible.
Don't worry. In the week since I've watched the movie, my thoughts have coagulated a little better, and now I think I have a more firm grasp on what take to bring it. So you can look forward to that.
You'll hold it together a little more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Political.
But I just want to say I'm excited to be here because I have really been enjoying the rewatch, re-listen.
Oh yeah.
I haven't been watching but I've just been listening and remembering the moments as you guys have been talking about them, which has been equally as fun.
Good. That's
Same.
the idea.
It's great. Loving it.
Thank you. That means a lot. We love our listeners, mostly our listeners in the West Indies and
What's
Jamaica.
up, guys?
Shout out to you guys. I wish we had that reach to the West Indies.
But we also love our listeners in Minnesota.
The Sin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
That's right. I will say that I've also been mentioned on the podcast before because I was there for the initial watch with you guys.
Yes. And that was going to be my first question to you guys. Once we get into it, I want to hear your Friday Night Lights history with the show and with the movie. We'll get into that in a little bit because we got some stuff to take care of first. You know, there are things that we need to get covered before we jump into anything. So, fellas, what are we drinking tonight?
Oh,
I'm so glad you asked.
Well, I'll start while Tyler steps away. I have got, so this isn't apparent yet to our listeners because we're so far ahead in recording in our episode to episode cast, but that I've been on a diet for about a month now, really count my calories. But today is Thanksgiving, and I sat down and in addition to watching Son-in-Law earlier today, I watched The Last Waltz, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, as everybody here knows. And Josh, I know you recently watched it for the first time, which we'll get to.
Okay, yes.
Because I do want to talk to you about this on air. But I've been on a diet for about a month. I hit the treadmill real hard yesterday. I hit like almost 4 miles. Speed walking burned, according to the treadmill, like 800 calories.
Hey, nice work.
Lost 3 pounds. Finally got past the 244 threshold that's been holding me up for a week and a half.
Yeah.
Got down to like 241.8 or something like that today. So I had the Thanksgiving food, had a couple of Grain Belt premiums while I watched The Last Waltz, because you got to have a couple beers while you're watching The Last Waltz. And
seems like it makes sense.
I've got a Crowler from the local brewery, Wooden Legs. This is called Breakfast of Champions. It's a mocha stout.
Ooh,
hey,
that sounds good.
It's very good.
Champion drink for a champion movie.
Very long story as to why it's notable that I'm drinking a beer, because it's the first time I've drank a beer in over a month, but it is delicious, and so were the Grain Belt premiums. So
that seems like a way to celebrate.
Grain Belt Premium doesn't know it, but they're a sponsor of our show. They don't pay us or anything, but we talk about them regularly.
Yep. This is unpaid for the moment, but once they sponsor us, you know, they'll be welcome to reimburse us for these.
Back pay.
Yeah. I was also going to shout out Wooden Leg, because we've also talked about them potentially, you know, coming on board the Reliving the Lights cash cow. That it is. So.
So anyway, that's what I'm drinking. Josh,
stout.
What do you got?
Yeah, that is very similar to what I'm drinking. I have a beer from Westo. It is a Westo French Toast Cocoa, which is a chocolate stout with cinnamon and maple syrup. I can't taste the cinnamon or the maple syrup, but it tastes like a really good chocolate stout. So I like it. But yeah, Westo, I believe that's
great brewery.
And it's fun to say Westo Cocoa.
Westo Cocoa. Yep. West Okoboji, Iowa.
What are you drinking, Westo Cocoa?
How about you fellers?
I have a ginger apple C-squared cider. I was feeling in a cider mood. Very weird. I don't know. I literally just saw it on the shelf and I was like, I'm going to try that.
Nice.
It is like any other cider, just a regular cider.
Jordan, this is a podcast about football. You're gonna have to kick it up a bit.
I do have a stout in my fridge that I could be drinking, but I just wasn't on the docket yet.
I was gonna say, what were you drinking last week when we just talked?
Oh yeah,
that was
what was the name of that again?
It was like a cream ale, right?
Yeah, it was a cream.
Yes. That was, I was drinking the Castle Danger cream ale, which is a good one. And actually the stout I have in my fridge is the Castle Danger stout, and it is excellent. I gotta recommend it. Castle Danger, just, you can't beat it.
We'll go with that. I'll edit this so that it's just it doesn't mention the cider.
You're welcome.
Sometimes you just gotta have a refreshing cider.
You do you, man. It's good.
I had a full. I ate a absurd amount of protein today, and so sometimes you just gotta top it off with something light.
A little light, yeah.
I went a bit more hardcore than you guys. I'm going with a peach aha. One of the best sparkling waters. You know.
Where is that made, Tyler?
Let's see.
I'm hoping we can keep it in the tri-state area here.
I'm gonna say it's made in the can. I'm just gonna say. Wow. I think this came out of my refrigerator.
Okay, well that's staying in the tri-state area. We're in good shape.
Keeping it very local.
Count it.
Coca-Cola Company. You heard of them? Small. A regional beverage company.
They've got
that region being Earth.
They have a bottling factory in like Chamberlain, so we're just going to assume that came from Chamberlain, South Dakota, and we're keeping it in the tri-state.
Absolutely, very nice.
I love it. All right, well, we've covered what we're drinking this week. I don't even know if we've said it yet. We're gonna talk about Friday Night Lights, but a very different Friday Night Lights. We're gonna set aside our regular cast of characters from the TV show and go back to the movie, the Friday Night Lights movie based on the book, which was based on the true story of the 1988 Permian Panthers. So, yeah, should be interesting. A little bit different here between season 1 and season 2. We thought we'd take a little break for the holidays and put this out for you guys. So excited to get into it. I think we better start off, as we always do, with a synopsis from IMDb. Unfortunately, it sounds like there's no Movie Dude 1 this week.
What are you doing, Movie Dude 1? This is what kind of dude you are.
Yeah, you've been reviewing the show.
What's your deal? Change your name to Show Dude 1 if you're going to do this to us.
What the hell? Yeah, we don't have any Movie Dude 1 this week, but we do have 4 different synopses. So I don't know if each one of us, do we all have IMDb handy that we can all read one?
I got it.
I mean, if I get a chance, I'll take a chance to read. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So this synopsis is by Anonymous. Based on H.G. Bissinger's book, which profiled the economically depressed town of Odessa, Texas, and their heroic high school football team, the Permian High Panthers. Not a lot of information enclosed there, but
accurate.
Put your name on it, coward.
No lies.
I was going to say this anonymous guy has a lot of reviews. He looks like he's reviewed 150,544 titles. So
holy cow.
Anonymous
he doesn't
guy.
have the time to...
Pretty prolific.
If I was doing that much work, I'd want to put my name on it. You know?
I think so.
A true hero.
So accurate, and I appreciate the brevity, but maybe a little too brief. But grammatically correct, it seems.
Yeah, no mistakes.
So,
for if that was Movie Dude 1 that did that, I would be like, dude, 10. 10 nailed it. Did it, Movie Dude 1.
It's definitely not Movie Dude 1.
We're proud of you.
All right, let's move on to Zach Abrams. Odessa, Texas is a small town in Texas. Racially divided and economically dying, there is one night that gives the town something to live for: Friday night. The Permian Panthers have a big winning tradition in Texas high school football, led by quarterback Mike Winchell and superstar tailback Booby Miles. But all is not well as Booby suffers a career-ending injury in the first game of the season. Hope is lost among citizens in Odessa and for the team, but Coach Gary Gaines, who believes that perfection is being able to look your friends in the eye and know you did everything you could not to let them down, is somehow able to help the team rise up from the ashes and make a huge season comeback. Now on their way to state, the Panthers must go out and be perfect because they may never matter this much for the rest of their lives.
So sad. What a bummer of a last sentence.
Woof.
So depressing.
Kind of, yeah, the point of the movie.
Pretty accurate.
But still. Yeah, screwing up in the first sentence for sure.
Yeah,
with the commas.
Small comma town. Odessa, comma,
and saying there is one night that gives the
comma
town something to live for. Friday night is kind of like, yeah, you got night in there twice. You could write something up differently.
It's a little redundant. Yeah.
One night, Friday. You could just say that. We can assume night.
You could just say there's one thing that gives the town something to live for.
Yes, absolutely. Don't give it away, man.
Yeah. I will say this: I can tell that Zach Abrams likes this movie a lot.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
I think he might have done some TV show. I think I feel like that name sounds really familiar. And I can't
Either way,
see
thank you for your service, Zach Abrams.
I think he's done a couple of episode synopses as well, but
He has. Yes, you are correct.
I knew it.
Yep.
He
has.
His number one plot synopsis is for Air Bud, Golden Receiver.
Oh,
he loves sports movies.
He loves
Can't get
sports
enough of
movies,
that.
especially football.
Followed by number 2, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody episode, Ask Zach.
Is
from
it about football?
2006.
Is it about football?
For all we know, it is, because this next one is for the love of the game. So
Oh, for real? Yep.
Just wants sports to be happening in front of him.
Yeah,
Doesn't
that
matter the
goes-
tone, age level, kind of species. Just if there's sports, Zach Abrams is watching.
there's no rule that says I can't watch a football dog.
I think we all know a Zach Abrams in our own
Yeah.
lives.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm reading the next one from David S. Johnson, which I chose this one because of the person's email,
Yes.
which is at bigfoot.com. I screwed up. I did not build my online life around a bigfoot.com email domain. Straight Arrow coach leads his team to the 1988 Texas State semifinals in the West Texas city of Odessa, where high school football is king. Expectations of classmates, coaches, family, and community members exact a toll on the athletes central to the story. Economic and racial undertones pervade this adaptation of H.G. Bissinger's book by the same. Drops off at the end. I think I meant to say same name.
It
says
says
name
same
on
name
mine.
on mine.
I think
my app
your
is
phone's
weird.
cutting it off.
Yep, blame my phone.
Time to grow up and get an
There you go.
iPhone, Tyler, like the rest of the
Never. I will not spend $900 to have emojis.
All right, I got the last one here. This is by noted reviewer JGP3553 at yahoo.com.
Oh,
Expectations are high for the 1988 football team at Permian Mojo High School in the blue-collar football crazy town of Odessa, Texas. Mojo, it's always in caps, so I'm going to say it like that, is a traditional powerhouse in Texas high school football, and the community lets Coach Gaines know in many not-so-subtle ways that nothing short of a state championship is a failure. But when the team loses its star tailback in the first game of the season, hopes seem dashed, and Mojo goes into an early tailspin. Everyone is ready to hang Coach Gaines in effigy, and the team is left for dead. But miraculously, Coach Gaines pulls the team together, and Mojo makes the now unlikely run into the state playoffs.
Great. This person loves typing the word mojo.
He loves it.
Mojo.
Yeah.
All caps. I do like that he added that everyone is ready to hang Coach Gaines in effigy.
That was an
An interesting interpretation.
Kind of editorializing, basically, because that doesn't actually happen or is threatened, right?
Well, I mean,
No.
There's
No
a
one's
deleted-
like, we're going to hang you in effigy.
yeah,
There's only
nobody's
one
really
deleted
gonna,
scene,
like,
and the
actually
deleted
kill
scene
him,
is that.
but-
The thing is, you could imagine it being real in this movie.
Hey, buddy, we're going to hang you in effigy if you don't win. What kind of a threat is that?
Okay.
Okay, go for it, I guess. You're not going to hang me? No? Okay, whatever.
Just something that looks like me. Okay, cool.
All right. I don't know. Who are we going with here? Who is the plot synopsis MVP? Anonymous, Zach Abrams, David S. Johnson at Bigfoot.com. Or
Truly, I think that David S. Johnson at Bigfoot.com gave a more than a single sentence, which is good. But also gave you kind of the themes that you can expect without giving any spoilers.
it was very
Yeah.
theme.
It was really
oriented.
easy to read, too. Got to give it to him.
Yeah.
Not
All right,
clumsy
well,
at all.
We should let him know. He's got his email right there, David S. Johnson at Bigfoot.com. Hey,
Let's all send him a collective email. Yeah.
we appreciate your work, Dave.
Good luck finding Bigfoot.
Yeah. All right. So that is our synopsis. This movie came out October 8th of 2004. So right as that would have been our senior year of high school, Jordan and my senior year of high school.
That's right.
Correct. And so we were, even the end of my high school football career. So I specifically remember, maybe we talked about this, maybe, okay. I don't remember if I had my jaw wired shut or not when I watched this movie, but it would have been right in that time period.
Real close.
Yeah.
For
When
sure.
this movie came. So we've never talked about this somehow, but I did break my jaw in the last game of my high school football career.
I remember that.
And was wired shut for 6 weeks.
I assume someone kicked a helmet at your face.
That is now, it was a helmet. It was a helmet straight to my chin, but
Yikes.
but not kicked. It wasn't quite that dirty.
It was still on a person's head.
Yes, it was. A very fast, hard moving person.
I do remember seeing you at the end of that game, and remember there was a lot of blood. I seem to remember
There was a lot of blood. At halftime,
you looked like you were having a bad time.
At halftime, Coach Hurt made me stand in the shower so I didn't get blood all over his locker room. Go stand in there. You're getting blood all over my floor. Okay, Coach.
And you played the rest of the game.
Yeah, I played that whole game, which I like to point out that because I played the rest of that game, I ended up being the lead tackler for the season over Joel Dykstra. So what's up, Joel? Broke my jaw and I still beat you. You may have played college football, but
you'll never have those numbers.
I would say that fits the theme of the movie more than anything, which is that you left it all out on the field and you could tell everyone that you did it perfectly.
That's right. Yes. Legendary.
So nice work. But you did probably have your jaw wired shut by the time this came to the Platt Theater.
I was probably watching this with my mouth
This was the opening year of the Platt Theater, and so this would have been in the first half. I mean, of the year of movies that actually got shown, because I think that spring, like early summer, is when that started. So this would have been a real fresh, a real fresh thing for us. So I remember going, and I remember really liking the movie when I saw it, just because it. Just the way it's filmed was, I think, pretty new at the time. There wasn't a lot of the kind of shaky cam in media res, kind of stuff like that, where, the like Jason Bourne, those movies kind of
got Greengrass.
Greengrass really got the shaky cam going. But the sort of adding to the realism type thing that really, I remember that really sticking with me at the time.
Yeah. And we can kind of get into this a little bit later, but one thing I really liked about it too, in comparison to, because at this time, I think Remember the Titans had come out maybe 4 or 3 years earlier. And that's a movie to me that like people love, and just, it never really worked for me. It's a little bit too Disney-fied. And so I think that this movie worked a lot more for me because it's so much less like that.
Warm and fuzzy.
It's a little realer version of.
It is not at all warm or fuzzy.
Yeah.
I saw Remember the Titans in the Armour, South Dakota. So an even smaller town than Platt movie theater.
No way.
And they showed it in the wrong aspect ratio the whole time. Which, if you guys know,
I'll bet that drove you insane.
I cannot handle it. I cannot. Everything was.
You can notice
squished.
it on a. You notice it on a TV immediately if it happens, and so I bet you were just like losing your mind.
I didn't even know that was possible in a film theater.
In Armour, South Dakota, it is.
They put it through like a prism that they put in front of the screen that they brought from home. Just to mess with you.
This doesn't look like my TV. I'll fix it.
Yes, this is not the same movie as Remember the Titans for sure.
Yeah.
Which, good for it. That's good. So that's a good. Let's before we get into the movie specifically, I'd like to hear your guys's kind of first experience with Friday Night Lights. We just touched on the movie, but also the show. This is a podcast about the show mainly. So I'd love to hear both your histories with the Friday Night Lights universe, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the third person watching it with the two of you the first time that you guys were watching it. And specifically, you had mentioned, I believe in the first episode, or maybe the 0.5 episode, or like the starter one, that you were watching it so late and you couldn't remember why you were watching it so late. And the answer was, in 2008, I was farming. And that meant that I was, that summer specifically, we were combining a bunch of winter wheat, and we would combine until it got dark, which in the summer is like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And so
Right.
I would get into town, I would take a shower, and then I would immediately drive over to Anthony's house, go straight to the basement, and we would start 2 episodes of Friday Night Lights. Sometimes 3.
That's right.
So I was watching seasons 1 and 2 with you guys. Is that right?
I think we did. Yep.
That's correct. Yep.
And I remember hearing the DirecTV, the news that season 3 was getting the DirecTV NBC kind of pairing off. Mm-hmm. And then it took me a little while to actually kind of keep up with it because of that. But
and if I'm not mistaken, you haven't seen season 5, right, Jordan?
I have watched almost all of season 5, and I've never watched the finale.
Okay. That's
just couldn't bring yourself to do it.
He wants it to live on forever.
Yeah, that was it. I don't know. Something I'm not really sure what happened there. I definitely am excited for you guys to get to season 5. I think I will probably just pick up the last season and watch through it.
Nice.
Just as something different. Because it's only 13 episodes total. Yeah, those later seasons get short, so
it's on Hulu. I know you have Hulu access.
You're right,
because we both have the same Hulu access.
That's right.
It's neither of yours.
Shout out to Mike Harris,
thanks,
friend
buddy.
Of the show.
Appreciate it. Yes, but I do remember really enjoying it when we were watching through it the first time.
Yeah, and that was a good summer.
Absolutely, and I'm very excited for you guys to get to season 2 specifically.
Hold on, buddy.
I personally cannot wait. It's going to be great. I remember when we were watching it being like, oh, what is going on with this? And I also remember how sad it was that was the writer's strike year. And so the season doesn't even end like on a regular note. They just had to like kind of cut it off where it stood.
It was a mercy killing.
Honestly, at that point it was. Yeah. And it's crazy that the show like came back stronger than ever in season 3. So
for real.
Getting a little ahead of myself here, but that I have some very fond and strong memories of watching it with you guys. And I was really excited that the podcast is going here, and listening just makes me feel like I'm back in that basement every week.
Right on. That's the idea.
Well, I know I watched the movie before. Almost definitely also in Anthony's basement, because I knew you were a big fan of everything, and I think I probably thought, well, let's watch the movie first and see how that. But then they're completely different, so they didn't really carry through that much. But I actually watched. I know I borrowed the season 1 DVD from you like years after it was probably around when it was ending, when the whole thing was ending, maybe. And I watched season 1, and I thought it was pretty good. And then I never watched any more of it.
That's it.
I think everybody told me how weird season 2 was, and I think I was like, I think I get it. So I am also looking forward to you guys getting into season 2, because every once in a while, Anthony, or even like when it was first happening, like I would hear you guys or whoever else just talking about whatever had happened with somebody getting murdered or something ridiculous happening, and I'd be like, wow, this a football show. So looking forward to hearing it the way I would love to hear it described to me versus
So you're not actually gonna watch season 2. You're just gonna
well, probably not.
We give you the play-by-play anyway.
Exactly.
So. Yeah. Nice.
I'll know
more
what's
or
going
less
on.
get it.
Yeah.
The theater of the mind will be very strong.
Yes. Yeah. Imagine Jesse Plemons swinging a lead pipe.
Ooh, nice.
I can imagine it. Beautiful.
Well, and so the movie is basically the first season of the show, right? The equivalent time frame that it's like one season.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. Like it takes place over the course of a football season.
And it's like, the kid that's really good gets injured and they have to play out their season anyway. All that, roughly.
It's
more
loosely based.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do we want to get into it with that kind of just like you two have been watching this, over the course of this last season.
Mm-hmm.
How have you guys felt after like watching the movie? Did it feel like a big shock to go back to the movie after watching a season of the show?
For me, I seriously, when I was watching the movie, I was like, how many times have I watched this freaking movie? Because I know everything that is going to happen when it happens. So I think I was already pretty like accustomed and comfortable with the relationship between the show and the movie. So it wasn't too weird for me because I really liked the movie to begin with before I liked the show. And then, the show obviously took on a life of its own in my life. So it didn't really throw me for a loop this time, but it still is fun to watch and make the connections and figure out like which character is an amalgamation of these three other characters and stuff.
Yeah, or who they decided to switch.
Yeah,
they were like, this role might work better with this person instead, or with this personality.
Yes, yeah,
that's pretty cool. How about you, Anthony?
Yeah, for me, so this was the first time that I'd watched it in at least, I'm going to say 3.5 years. I know that I watched it on HBO when I was living in the college party house that I lived in 2016 and 17. I don't remember the exact time frame of when that would have been. So we'll say 3.5 years ago. For me, it was, I think, more of a shock than anything of how true to the style they really kept the show from the movie.
Yep.
And definitely. how much they went for that whole zoom, like the strong zooms and the shaky cam, and even like I remember the explosions in the sky soundtrack. But
that's what I kept thinking of. I kept thinking of the music and like weirdly all the establishing shots of like this is Texas basically.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the weird shots where it's like clearly from a car and it's like going by a player's house and they like slowly zoom in on like the number 6 lives here.
That's the house style for sure for Friday Night Lights. It seems like.
I feel like the movie I feel like Dillon is a much cozier, more quaint town than Odessa though. Like,
100%.
Odessa, they really go hard to to put across the point that it is bleak. There's nothing there except football. That's it. Yep. Whereas Dillon seems more like your more familiar small town.
Like any small town.
Yes. Yep.
Like every small town and no small town at the same time.
I will say this, just to transition to the next portion that I would like to get into. Sorry to cut you off, Jordan.
Nope, not at all. You're fine.
Is the thing that really shocked me more than anything on this rewatch is how many characters were kind of an analogy for characters in the show, or analogs for characters in the show. Where like I remembered obviously Boobie Miles, and I know that he's clearly an analog for Smash, but I didn't remember like how much Garrett Hedlund's character is basically just like Tim Riggins.
Yeah, seriously.
For example, and to a lesser extent, how much Mike Winchell, Lucas Black's character, is kind of an analog for kind of a combination between Jason Street and Matt Saracen.
Yeah,
definitely.
He's kind of a quiet, not necessarily as goofy.
No, Mike Winchell definitely doesn't listen to Bob Dylan or draw pictures.
No.
Changing from Mike to like those other two guys, I feel like is one of the smarter decisions they made in going from the movie to the show. Just because, not because Mike's like boring necessarily, but like having like a younger kid having to move into that and focusing on that kid versus like in the movie, the kid that rises up to a starting position who's younger doesn't really get very much focus, but that is pretty interesting. So they pretty much combined, like he's got his grandma instead of his mom, and then he's also younger. So and there's a girl that he likes versus the movie where there are no girls. Like they just, or at least none of them are characters.
Yeah, definitely.
What I would have liked to have seen in the show that I don't think ever comes about, and I may be mistaken on that because we are only into season 2 and I haven't seen season 3 beyond in a very long time, is that there wasn't really an analog for the Ivory Christian character who I really liked in the movie.
Also, when I saw, like, I kept watching it kind of with I don't know, I was kind of being cynical about it of like, these kids are all like really wanting to go somewhere with it, but none of them are big enough. And I just kept thinking, this Ivory Christian guy is clearly the only guy big enough to go anywhere with it.
And he was the only one who played. Yeah, in NCAA.
So they
D1,
basically
right?
nailed it. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I was thinking it is interesting there were some things that I liked more in the movie. And I had talked to you guys a little bit about this, but I did, and this is maybe just a tone thing for me, but the fact that the movie's tone is so bleak and so like this is all they have, making Boobie Miles have football be his only thing, like and after that that's literally it. He's got nothing. I think is so I think it says a lot more about like kind of high school sports in a way than for example Jason Street's does, because Jason Street has to figure out a way to kind of like live life after being paralyzed, which is kind of a whole nother issue. But Boobie Miles' whole thing is that like he's borderline illiterate, and this and like the timing has to work out perfect. Like, you know, you can recover from an ACL tearing, but the fact that you can't recover in time to do this season means you're done. That's it. Like the timing is so mercenary.
Yeah. Well, and Jason Street's situation is kind of its own kind of separate tragedy from football. I mean, obviously it would suck to miss out on a career like that, but like even like you guys have said this in the show, that he even in the first season goes from dealing with not being able to play football anymore to just dealing with being paralyzed and like moving on with his life. And it really kind of blows it up into a separate issue that's beyond the football life that they all are obsessed with.
And kind of even the bigger bummer of it is not even Boobie, it's his uncle, who is like the worst character in the movie, I think. Like in terms of like likability or hateability.
Sure.
That was about to say it. Like he is just like, and I guess I don't know much about, or we don't know much about Boobie Miles's like parents or anything, but the fact that his uncle is basically just like egging him on and pushing this whole football thing to the point where he gets his meal ticket even more injured than he already was.
I'm kind of torn on him because it's like,
I was
on one hand,
too.
Yeah, on one hand, like it is awful, but like that's probably what.
But Boobie wants that too.
Yeah, like, and even in retrospect, like that, it's so crazy because everybody keeps like, I'd say about a third of the conversations that happen in the movie are people like ramping up the pressure on like, this is the only thing you have, and it like it basically is true. Like it would be if he hadn't pushed it, he would have regretted it forever, you know, even if it wouldn't have worked. So it's like that's probably what he wanted his uncle to do. Yeah, it's a lose-lose.
I was gonna counter that by saying
sleazy though.
I was gonna counter what you were saying by saying that if you're the guardian of a minor, you should have the mindset. But also, you're right, because as we've talked about on the show between Josh and I, that mentality of like small town and everybody pressuring you into those things is so difficult. Like regardless of what's the logical decision, it's so difficult to fight that.
And that being said, it was an extremely nice moment when he shows up at the bus before the final game and asks the coach if he can like join in, and he's like, yeah, of course. And he goes to the game even if he's not playing. Like being part of the team, he got him their first win. You can count it. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a really nice moment, and it's a cool kind of redeeming thing. Even though, you know, it sucks for anything past that, but at the time it's pretty great. So
the delivery for Boobie's uncle, just the way he talks, and like, do you think the real guy like he had to be like trying to like emulate something, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise, why would you hire somebody
that
would talk in that way?
Or why would you direct someone to say that? Like, could you maybe try, like, I don't know what you would even say. Could you try to sound like the sleaziest person on earth when you answer this question?
Have you ever seen Don King? You just act like Don, like you're Don King, but you're promoting your nephew? Because that's what I want.
In the commentary, they said that LV or whatever they called him was like the nicest, most decent man you've ever met in your life. Like just the most outstanding, upstanding dude.
So they just scummed him up or what?
I did not have the same impression of him as you guys. I didn't think
he was a bad guy, but
I see him as desperate more than sleazy.
Yeah, honestly.
I've got a theory.
All right.
Because we haven't gotten into this yet, but Josh, you watched the commentary with Buzz Bissinger and Peter Berg, and those guys are scummy, and they thought LV was upstanding. I think what we got going on here.
That is honestly a great point.
Seriously, that's my main takeaway from the commentary is that Peter Berg and Buzz Bissinger are creepy dudes.
Okay, I do want to talk about
toxic.
them. This is kind of the main thing I wanted to get into a little bit about them, about Peter Berg as a director, but I will hold off if we want to do more plot stuff.
I was just going to say, well, we can do this later too, but I had something from Wikipedia, which I was going to read, which is, we were talking about kind of the bleakness of the movie. I went to the Wikipedia page for the high school, Permian High School. And in the history section, it says, opened in 1959, Permian High is named for the Permian Basin, the geological formation which underlies the Midland and Odessa. The name stems from the age of the rocks in the basin where the school is located, which are from the blah, 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 geological period that preceded the largest mass extinction in the history of life. You don't have to include that, but I thought it was hilarious and is indicative of the bleakness of the movie.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not ominous in the slightest.
Not ominous at all.
Sheesh. So the bleakness, that was like the first thing I noticed was like when they show that huge football stadium and there's like nothing else. You know, like that was obviously very intentional at the beginning of the movie, but that's the actual like Permian Stadium. And they're not sure on the commentary. They said they weren't sure, but it is definitely like in the top rankings of the biggest high school football stadiums in the United States. It holds 19,000 people. And like 1982 or whenever they built it, it was a $5.6 million stadium in the early 80s.
Right.
So
wow.
They said it's the only bond thing that the measure that the town has ever passed was to build that huge freaking football stadium.
That alone should tell you everything you need to know about the town and the movie and Friday Night Lights as a series.
Yeah.
And high school football in Texas. And
yeah, exactly. That, I mean, what else? You don't have to go any further into it. Just name that fact, and everyone's like, I get it.
Apparently, Chavez, he went to Harvard, as they said at the end of the movie, but he like walked onto the football team and played for a few weeks. And he said he was playing for like 200 people when he's used to playing for 19,000 people. And he said they were like trying to teach him techniques that he knew better than any of the coaches at Harvard. So he said, screw this, I'm going to play rugby instead. So that's what he did. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
That's pretty awesome. I got a question for you. How do you feel about Tim McGraw's role?
I thought he was great. Like, honestly, this movie makes me, and I mean, we're talking about in 2004. It made me, I just said maked earlier, but
edit that out. Edit that out.
It made me like Tim McGraw more than I had since I was like a young kid and was like listening to his music.
He is good, and I didn't realize it was him until I literally looked it up.
That's like, what I remember. I remember watching the movie and be like, who is that? Like, that seems so familiar. And then coming to the realization, like, holy crap, that's Tim McGraw. What the heck?
Yeah.
But I don't listen to any country music, so I don't know.
Sure.
I wouldn't know him from Adam, but just knowing that he is primarily a singer and now an actor, and also does acting is pretty wild.
He has got, and we've talked about this on the show, Josh and I, but he's kind of got it based on this movie alone. I have not seen Country Strong, which I know Josh has. So
so much movies. Country Strong.
In the same vein as Dwight Yoakam, who was supposed to play the coach on the TV show, who's a country singer who has like unbelievable acting chops when you put him to the test. Like, I've never seen a Dwight Yoakam performance that I didn't like. Dwight Yoakam also, interestingly enough, was in Billy Bob Thornton's like directorial and writing debut of Sling Blade, and also a great freaking performance in that movie too. So
I always respect it when people like this who have kind of a separate thing going on. You know, they're not only an actor and they're kind of coming in as someone who's already kind of famous, come in and do such a villainous role. Like if you're like, ooh, I'm going to try to get into acting. Let's see if I can get people to hate me. Let's see how good I am at that.
He's good at it. He's real good.
Yeah.
Because wow, the cycle of abuse has never been clearer.
Menacing.
Yeah.
He is really going, especially I think the most menacing thing is after his big freak out in the car where he destroys the windows. The next morning, waking up and apologizing is literally the most terrifying part to me. Yeah. Because you know that's not the first time he's done that, and you know right. the last time he does it. Mm-hmm. And you know that his son is just sitting there like shaking in his boots, waiting to see when the other shoe's going to drop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. And he's so good at doing the fake penitence, or not even fake, I'm sure real for him at the time.
Right.
Sort of penitence of like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was doing.
Very unsettling. Tim McGraw is very unsettling in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all know, maybe not to that level of abuse, but like coming from Platt, South Dakota, like that character, Charles Billingsley, like I feel like I don't know to that level of abuse, but I know a Charles Billingsley. Like he definitely reminded me of a few small town folks.
Just kind of angry.
Yeah, just kind of angry, just kind of like, just rugged. I don't know what the word is, but like
I think some of it is maybe, I don't want to just say economic, but kind of class based in a sense that like Absolutely. You don't have a lot going for you, and this is sort of an outlet for it, for better or for worse. And right. I don't think that's the whole solution to it, or even the whole like prescription of what it is, but I think that's certainly a part of it, because I don't feel like he has a good life, and I feel like a lot of that seems like it's related to that in some way.
Absolutely.
The sort of, he seems like the best example in the movie of the sort of cycle that is constantly spinning in Permian and in like any small town like that, where, you know, because he's always pointing his ring at his son, and then he throws it out the window and his son's like freaking out, which is also just tragic.
Well, pretty much the whole crux of the movie is just that everybody's lives are bad, and is this thing that we all kind of somewhat arbitrarily picked to be like the thing that we put all of our hopes and dreams into, and that our like society is based on, like, is it actually worth it to even try to like get something out of it? You know what I mean? Because like people, like, you know, everybody's trying to either get ahead and get a job or move through it or impress their dad or whatever. And it's like, you know, is it even possible anyway? Or are we basically all just deluding ourselves into thinking it's going to help? Because there's all these older guys who have the rings, and it's like, they're basically like Gollum in Lord of the Rings, where it's like, is that what I'm going to turn into? Even if we win, like, is this even worth it?
Right.
Like, to go out there and get horribly injured, because these guys are just like around and they're miserable, but they are also saying, this is the only time you're going to have fun.
This is it. Yeah.
This is you know, like, you got to get the most you can out of it and try your absolute best, because you're done either way. Because the guys who didn't win are also miserable. So it's like, whatever.
The thing is, though, is it's so true to life, because I personally know, and I won't name names except for off recording, but like I personally know of a situation that I witnessed firsthand of a player on the Black Panthers 1992 championship winning team going up to a local NAIA college level player, which is not high up, and introducing himself as like, hey, I'm this person, 1992 state football champion, and like shook his hand. And this guy who was playing in NAIA football played really well in high school football, did not win a state championship.
Sure.
But like
Unreal.
The fact that that's a thing that I have seen personally is like, oh, what a bummer.
It's like that domino meme where there's like a tiny domino and they get progressively like way bigger. And the first one is like a team wins a championship in 1954, and then the last one is like $5.6 million stadium.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the plot.
Let's just try and hit it up quick.
So basically, we've got Odessa, Texas, a bummer of a community.
Ugh.
Not really sure population wise how big it was in the 1980s. If we can,
1980, 90,000, 1990, 89,000. So basically just right around 90,000.
So around 90,000 people. So we're talking a decent, like a Rapid City sized town at the time.
Can you put that into terms that our West Indies listeners could understand?
I'm gonna have to look up Jamaican.
The West Indies also have Wikipedia. They can figure it out.
We'll put it in the episode description.
There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of a dead end town. It's like a town from a Bruce Springsteen song where like maybe there was something there once, but now everybody's just pissed off.
Yeah.
And mad. We've got the only hope in the town is the Permian Panthers. They are traditionally pretty good. I had the picture pulled up on IMDb that had the state championships that they had won prior.
There's like 4 of them, right?
Yeah. 65 was one. 84 was the most recent prior to this. But they've got a traditionally good football team, and as we come to find out, high school football is pretty much everything in the state of Texas, especially small town Texas. So they're a traditionally good football team. They've got a like insanely stacked team from what we know, led by running back Boobie Miles, who is very full of himself, very confident in his abilities.
Very Smash-like.
Very Smash-esque. Probably
way cooler nickname. Boobie? Come on.
If you can be nicknamed Boobie and be a confident guy, you've won. That's it. Like no one's gonna mess with you. What, you gonna call me something worse than Boobie? Get out of here.
My 5-year-old was watching tonight. She just turns to me like, "Daddy, Boobie?" Yeah, baby, Boobie.
That's right, baby. Boobie.
So we've got Boobie Miles, who is raised by his uncle. We don't know much about his home life outside of that, what is going on with his parents, but he's raised by his uncle LV, basically to be a football star. He is borderline illiterate from what we can tell. He gets like a college letter in the mail and has a hard time reading it in a particular scene. We've got Brian Chavez. I don't remember what position he plays, but also an exceptionally good football player. Yeah. You got Mike Winchell at quarterback, who's very talented as well, as far as we can tell. Don Billingsley, a fullback, right?
Yep.
Who's got a abusive father, played by Tim McGraw. And
a very hairy Tim McGraw.
Yeah. Yes. Ivory Christian, who I believe he was the defensive player. And the other big one is Chris Comer, who is Boobie Miles' backup. I think would be the primary characters on the football team. And they're all coached by Coach Gary Gaines, played by Billy Bob Thornton. And they start off the season great. Boobie Miles is playing great. He ends up tearing his ACL.
That's not great.
All he knows is football. The team kind of ends up sucking for a bit.
Not long, though.
Not long.
They turn it around.
They end up pulling it together and making the playoffs.
Boom. There's not really like one main character, right? Like the main character is
maybe
Gary Gaines,
Mike.
I would say the closest.
I was thinking Mike.
I feel like it's more a main concept than a main character.
I think really the three. I think it really is the three main between Mike and Boobie and Don. And then
Coach?
kind of the coach too. I forgot about him.
Coach Gaines, I would say.
It's funny to like forget about the coach, but he's such a he's not a player, and the action isn't like happening with him, and so I almost forget that it's like, oh yeah, he facilitates the action, but that makes him a character too. He's just as much dealing with everybody.
I mean,
else.
he's got some major like tension in the whole thing because his entire like family and whatnot is at in peril of being moved, fired. He could be fired, he could be moved. Like it literally comes down to a coin flip whether he's gonna have to.
I forgot how crazy that was. That was really nuts.
Yeah,
I really loved the scene where he pulls up to his home and there's all the realtors have signs in his yard.
That's a pretty good burn.
If memory serves, because I have read the book twice, but it's been about a decade since the last time I read it, that I think that actually happened, which is insane.
Yeah. They said that in the commentary that was something that people always ask him, like, that didn't really happen. And like, no, yeah, it actually 100%.
Because it seems like a bit. Like, I think if you're the realtor in town and you do that like at game 3, like you gotta feel like a real piece of crap when he makes it to like the playoffs in the very least. Like,
I don't think they would feel bad because
audacious move.
I don't think they would feel bad though, because everybody in this town is just being mean to the kids constantly. And then I assume at the end, when the kids do really good, they all think that that's why the kids did good. They're like, oh yeah, I was mean to them, and then they got it together, and then they won.
Yeah.
So I think everybody who put the signs on his lawn, they probably all looking back think that's the turning point. That's why they turned it around, is because I was a dick to the coach.
This guy finally realized that if he didn't win, we would literally sell his house for him.
It was like a breath of fresh air to me when his wife, played by the same actresses in the show,
Connie Britton,
love you, come on the show. Every time she would say pretty much anything, but whenever she was like, wouldn't it be great if everybody cared a little less about football? I'm like, yes. Like everybody is like constantly, whenever anyone would do something wrong in the game, all the coaches would like sarcastically be like, do you not understand how important this is? Like that was like the only criticism that everybody had of everybody else. And they never made any like strategic moves or whatever. It was just like, just ramping up the pressure and constantly doubling down on the importance. And it's like, oh boy. Maybe we shouldn't.
I mean, yeah, maybe the main character is basically like Odessa itself, and that's that's the main conflict, because
it's almost as if Odessa is a character. And
you know who the main character is.
I love that type of stuff. Yeah, that's right.
But, I mean,
it is good, and you're not wrong too. Yeah. It's Odessa. It is really just a study of a town more than anything else. So that's absolutely true.
I can't remember the exact wording that the coach uses at the very first like pregame talk or whatever, but he basically says like, "This is everything for the town. The entire town is riding on your back." Like I don't necessarily know that was a great approach to kick off your football season, but it's what they keep coming back to over and over and over again. Yeah.
The entire town like keeps approaching players and being like, are you going to be perfect? Like, can you be perfect?
Woof.
Okay. A little side note here in the commentary, Bissinger was like, oh, that was brilliant. I think that's going to be like become a regular part of people's vocabulary and stuff, like the lexicon, be perfect,
about being perfect,
which I love because it was Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose that eventually did it.
Which
but
like is like only like colloquially said in the movie, right? Like he doesn't.
He doesn't even completely words. Say
no.
it. Yeah,
he kind of gets close.
Like your ears perk up and like, that wasn't really it, but okay.
I was going to mention something that I really thought was funny in the game where Boobie Miles gets injured, which was that apparently in real life, he gets injured in like a preseason game or something, right? And it was just like a routine thing. And like in the show, Street gets injured. I don't remember the exact situation, but it doesn't play quite the same.
Last play of the first game.
Okay. So in this one, I thought it was really interesting that Boobie Miles, they had a combo situation of the backup guy forgetting his helmet. And then you see a brief little moment after the injury happens where two guys on the opposing teams like give each other like a tiny, tiny high five. And I really like I think it creates a classic situation of like almost that injuries aren't inherent to football or anything. Like, don't worry about it. These guys all let down football by either being dirty or by being like negligent. And it's like just this bizarre situation where it's like, you don't need to like give us a bunch of reasons why a guy got injured. Like it's already extremely tragic. I don't know. I just thought that was bizarre. Like the movie, in its like depiction of the town and just the whole situation and trying to like give it a, I don't know if they're trying to give the town a fair shake or whatever, but it's like they really try to thread the needle in like this being a world that makes sense almost, while also being horribly unfair to everybody. I don't know. It's very strange.
I did like that moment where the two players, like, they barely even look at each other and basically give each other like a a very quick
tiny high five.
Yeah, that was
because we got to know they're dirty. No, he wouldn't have got injured otherwise.
But that being said, as we've discussed this on the show before, some towns are just villainous, much like Gregory, South Dakota. Some people are just born evil if they're born.
There are villains.
Any red team. It's any red team, and that carries through in this as well.
Oh yeah. Dallas
Josh,
Carter.
I want to remind you that you are currently working for the Red Raiders.
Ooh, I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like we've been distancing ourselves from the red portion. Everything just says Raiders now. I mean, we still are red, so but at least, and we're still Raiders, which for a Christian college doesn't make sense to me, but whatever, that's fine. That's a whole other conversation.
I gotta say, when I applied to college, the big deciding factor, because I got accepted to USD first, and then I was like, they're red. It's a
red team.
And as I now know, people that go to USD are also villains.
So I like that your college choice came down to, I don't think I look good in red.
Yeah, not for me.
Well, no,
he's
that's how he knew they were villains.
Yeah, it's how I knew they were evil.
Gotcha.
So perfect example of this. We talked about me breaking my jaw. That was by Wagner, so they're a red team. Later on in the year, at a basketball game, friend of the show, Austin Ringling, was shooting a free throw, and we were playing Wagner in Platt, and the student section for Wagner started chanting "Broken jaw."
I remember
broken jaw. They thought Austin was the one who had broken his jaw. So that was like kind of their not so subtle high five hilarious. Between themselves. And I actually went over to the Wagner side and sat next to the guy who broke my jaw. And I was like, "What's up, man? You like ruined my life for 6 weeks, but I made it." I talked to him for a while. He didn't know what to do with it. It was kind of an awkward move, but
love to see it.
a very villainous chant by the student section of a red team. So our theory holds
classless
up. The worst.
How do we feel about the red team in the movie?
Dallas Carter.
I do want to dive into that for sure.
Really, is there anything specifically bad about them other than they're way better at football than the team that they're playing?
Here's what's bad about them.
Being physical, like, it's football. What's the problem?
I'll tell you what's bad about them. The way that they're depicted in the movie. Because it is very obvious that they are using a primarily minority team and making them look villainous in a lot of ways, and it is very troubling. And I do want to dive into that in the Anthony Gets Political segment.
Okay, but I will say this. I listened to the commentary and they went off about this, Peter Berg and Bud Bissinger. Now, as we've mentioned, these are very douchey people who seem very toxic. So take this all with a grain of salt. But they were talking about how much like flack they took for how Dallas Carter was depicted. And Buzz Bissinger was like, listen, the way we depicted them had nothing to do with their skin color. That's how they were. They were a dirty team. They were a cocky team. They were very big and very good, and they knew it. And that's just like, that's actually who they were. So like, yeah, I can see how that comes off bad, but that's not what we were doing. But yeah, again, I don't trust Buzz Bissinger to be a decent human being.
It's good. It's good that they genuinely. Well, I want to say it's good that they genuinely believed it, as opposed to like cynically doing it on purpose. That would obviously be worse.
Yeah.
Or even just like changing the story to make it more dramatic or something.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Well, here's another thing that he gave as evidence was that later in the season, 5 of the players got arrested for breaking and entering, and the lowest jail sentence of all of them was 12 years, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they actually
that says more about Texas than anything else. I think.
right.
Yeah.
They
Well, and
actually
also-
did like go to jail. They were
and also didn't like Permian win the state championship the next year and
The
then get it
following year.
revoked because they were cheating?
no, that was the other thing he said was this championship from the movie was actually
Yeah.
revoked from Dallas Carter because they had an ineligible player that they were using, so it was
Oh,
retroactively stripped from them.
Right.
So that
And-
was his
and-
other thing. Like
and
they
in
were
the-
cheap, they were dirty.
in real life, it wasn't even the final, right? It was the semifinal.
Yeah, it was like
that-
I want to
that
say it was
Permian
like
lost.
the first or like the first
Oh
playoff
yeah,
game or something like that.
that's right. Yeah,
It was definitely earlier than the finals. Which here's the thing about that is I don't believe Bus Bissinger and Peterberg for this reason only is that they were like the fact that they were like, let's play at a neutral site. How about the Astrodome? They're not playing even a semifinal. I don't remember exactly what game it was that they lost, but even a semifinal game, you're not being like, let's play at a neutral location. How about the freaking Astrodome?
12-hour bus ride.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing they changed that in the script for like just because
Dramatic
they had
purposes.
They
well,
could
I'm
get
assuming
the-
because they already had shots of a game being played in the Astrodome.
But
I'm assuming.
I
That
really
sounds about right.
Because if they had it where it actually was set in like College Station or something, they just didn't have rights to that film or something.
that's
I don't know.
possible.
That's what I would think.
So I think this is as good a time as any to actually talk about Peter Berg
Let's
and Buzz
go.
Bissinger
Let's go.
because I've been doing some research, friends, and there two. Josh, as you said, having listened to the commentary, what I mean, yeah, like say again, how do they come off generally to you?
They come off like douchey bros. Turns out they're cousins.
Yes.
We
Crazy-
discussed in a
Crazy
this came up in a pre-show text, and it
I
was
maybe
ticked
spoiled that in the
it
text.
was spoiled.
Sorry.
But
I've got a little bit of a timeline of Peter Berg's career that intersects with Buzz Bissinger in a few different spots, and I think it's interesting.
let me give you a specific example real quick before we
Yeah.
get into that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first of all, yeah, that whole discussion on Dallas Carter felt very the way you would expect someone trying to defend themselves not being a racist to sound.
Felt intensely privileged, maybe.
Yeah, so that's number one. Number two, and I sent this to the other two people in this conversation that are on Snapchat, which Jordan, you're not.
Sorry.
But there is a portion of the commentary where Buzz Bissinger is absolutely just railing against people who critiqued the movie and who had, and this was actually about Dallas Carter. Like he is just going off about how like ridiculous it is that people were criticizing this. And then there's a shot of the Dallas Carter cheerleaders and Peter Berg is like, oh, those Dallas Carter cheerleaders were hot. And then Buzz Bissinger is like, yeah, man, whoa, boy. And then every time they show up on screen, they're like, oh, there they are. Oh my God. It's like,
boy.
you guys know this is being recorded, right?
And you know that
Jeepers.
you're depicting them as being high schoolers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like whether or not the actresses actually are high schoolers.
The other thing was, it really seemed like about 2/3 of the way through, Peter Berg just lost all interest in what he was doing, and
sounds
just
about
left
right.
Buzz Bissinger to just like
Couldn't-
carry the entire.
Couldn't keep
commentary.
it going for 2 hours.
Buzz Bissinger straight up said like, "Hey, you're looking at your phone a lot there, man. You want to contribute?"
And this is
2004?
yeah, I was gonna say this is when there was not much going on in phones.
Yeah.
he was
it
playing
would've just been
Snake.
text.
Snake
Yeah.
was exciting.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's my
No, that's okay.
background.
That's good. That actually leads into my first thing, which is that I have written down, which is Peter Berg, basically the Midwest Michael Bay. And
I feel that.
I have evidence to back it up. I feel, but mainly,
yes.
Mainly, it's that the same way that Michael Bay is a very Californian version of just like, this is just what dudes like. Peter Berg is that for the Midwest. And if you look
just
at
guys being dudes,
the arc of his career, it is literally just a bunch of movies about guys being dudes.
They actually commented on how there are like 0 women in this show, in this movie. Like they mentioned it multiple times. Like, oh, you let a woman talk here.
He only has interest in basically one woman, and that woman is Rihanna. So not maybe the best example
Same.
of like, I mean, yeah.
and Connie Britton on the commentary. They sounded a lot like Anthony and I talking about how wonderful Connie Britton is.
She is truly a tremendous woman.
We've cut hours of Josh and I proving
that could be its own podcast.
Absolutely.
Things we've cut from the actual podcast about
the Connie Britton podcast starring Josh and Anthony with just outcasts.
That'd be good. So he was born in New York, but he actually went to college in St. Paul, Minnesota. Fun fact.
Where?
Literally, so you can actually triangulate it from where Tyler and I are. You went to McAllister, Tyler, which is
That's super close to me.
Literally a mile south of me here in St. Paul. So he spent some time in the Midwest, at least enough to realize that he wanted to tell stories about guys from the Midwest for his entire life. And so, you know, his kind of career, you've got like The Rundown, and then Friday Night Lights, the movie, where he pulled the script from the book his cousin wrote, which is a good time. And then, you know, he goes on to do Friday Night Lights season 1, episode 1. He directed that. He did actually the only other episode of Friday Night Lights he directed was season 4, episode 1. But then he has like a weird, he directs The Kingdom and Hancock, which the only thing is, Hancock's a weird outlier for when superhero movies were starting to get big. But The Kingdom is very much his thing, where he fell in with the locals too much. In this term, the locals being people that work for the FBI.
And also a similar thing to this movie in the sense that it's like, this is just how things are. It's just a cycle that never ends. Don't think about it too much.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Jordan, before you go any further, I just want to say I love your Midwest Michael Bay comparison, because as I'm looking through Peter Berg's IMDb, just going off of his movies, I would describe them as, in no particular order, movie I loved as a kid, movie that's fine, banger, it's fine. Oh, and then he goes into gets a boner for Mark Wahlberg.
I was just going to say,
just totally Michael Bay.
Then he meets Mark Wahlberg and his career just tanks. Yes.
Yeah. That's the same as Michael Bay. Like, that's exactly how I would describe it.
It's crazy. So really, then this is when it gets into what I think the real kicker is when he directs Battleship. Battleship is literally the defining movie of his career in such a weird way. Because he gets in with the Navy, he gets to use Tim Riggins in a lead role, and he meets Rihanna. Those are like his 3 things. So then from then on, you've got and this is, so here's the crux of the whole thing is that I can't quite figure out, you know, I think we live in 2004, for example, you could make a movie and it was essentially apolitical. In 2020, nothing's apolitical anymore. Everything is political in some way. And so we look at it, you know, through a lens backwards of like, all right, what are the politics of Peter Berg? And truly, after looking through all of this stuff, it's confusing. There's no good answer. In 2012, the other thing that happened with him is that he got mad at Mitt Romney for using "Clear Eyes, Full Hearts Can't Lose," the catchphrase. And Buzz Bissinger came back saying that, no, actually, Mitt Romney's a good guy. He should be able to use this.
Really?
You know, who's bad is Obama. So immediately that seems to give me like an idea of like, okay, so Peter Berg, you know, maybe he's like more on the Democratic side, and maybe Buzz Bissinger is more of a conservative guy.
I vaguely remember that happening, and now knowing that they're cousins makes that even stranger, because I totally do remember that happening. But
here's my actual thing of trivia with the two of them, that confused me to no end. In 2015, I don't know if you remember, but Caitlyn Jenner won an ESPN Arthur Ashe Courage Award.
Oh yeah.
And Peter Berg basically did a big criticism thing about it, and said some extremely insensitive language about Caitlyn Jenner and transgender people in general, which was interesting because the person that wrote the Vanity Fair cover story about Caitlyn Jenner, her whole like coming out thing, was Buzz Bissinger.
No freaking way.
And so it seems they just weave back and forth in this weird dance of like, which one of us is conservative? Which one of us is more liberal? I don't know. I can't get over that.
I think they just like us to think about them and what they have going on.
I don't think you're wrong.
I think they just like to get attention.
The other weird so ultimately I think that Buzz Bissinger is just a writer. He just like picks things, and he just like, as soon as he writes about a thing, he defends it to the very end. But I think Peter Berg, one, he is the human embodiment of the guy who is ready to call someone a p***. If you read any of his articles, that's literally the only thing I get from it, is that he is obsessed with like doing push-ups and fighting people. Like,
is Peter Berg employed with Barstool Sports yet? Or
that's a good fit.
It's a perfect fit that they haven't figured out yet.
He's gonna make his own version of that with Mark Wahlberg any day now.
Honestly, yes. But the other thing is that he is obsessed with the sort of salt of the earth people who do these jobs that are traditionally lower class, and oftentimes that comes across as conservative, but he himself wouldn't describe himself as conservative, only because he lives in Hollywood. Right. So what's the answer? I don't know. He did
get Peter Berg on the Joe Rogan podcast, and we can learn something.
I think we would find out. I don't know how much we'd find out, because every interview I've read with him has been. I actually have a bunch of quotes. I won't like swarm us with quotes, but in a interview in 2016, after Trump was elected, he said, for Berg, when it comes to politics, he considers himself a centrist with no allegiance to any political party. I found when I did Lone Survivor, my more liberal friends were attacking me for being sympathetic with the NRA and with hardcore Republicans. And a lot of the Republicans I work with were accusing me of being some Hollywood leftist, he said. I just said, I'm going to ignore all this. I believe there are issues and themes that transcend politics, which is a pretty privileged position to say. I would say someone who makes movies has the ability to say that. That's about as far as I can go with that without really ranting. But
this hasn't been a rant so far.
I appreciate that, because the other thing, the other interview one I want to say is from the Men's Journal interview, which you can about imagine how those kind of go. But
oh boy,
it comes down to effort, Berg says, with a drill sergeant's intensity. Figure out something you like doing and you have to work. You have to. And if you can't figure it out, you have to go figure it out. Laziness will destroy you. Apathy will destroy you. And the interviewer says, but what if I'm someone who just likes sleeping in and hanging out with my friends? I asked, doing my best to goad him. Then you're going to end up frustrated, bored, and probably on a bad path, he says. Berg smells blood. A big Cheshire cat smile comes over his face. Wake the up, make some sacrifices, and don't be a pussy. That's what he said. I mean, like, that's his entire ethos, and that's why I think he was so excited to follow, a bunch of high school football players for whom football is life and death, and why he now casts Mark Wahlberg as an oil guy and a CIA guy and an army guy and whatever other guy.
I think Peter Berg's whole deal is trying and failing to find something to care about, because like he basically makes this whole movie of people trying to convince kids to care about the only thing they already care about. And then he basically just makes a bunch of like really cynical, like The Kingdom, same thing. It's like, whatever. It's a nightmare. Who cares? Hitchcock, whatever. I have superpowers. Who cares? Like, and then he just makes a bunch of movies about like national level tragedies. It's like, what does it take to get this guy out of bed every day?
Deepwater Horizon, the Boston Marathon.
I didn't even know they made a Boston Marathon movie.
Patriots Day. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm actually curious now what he did with Battleship, just because like
I think Battleship's
aliens
gonna unlock
invading.
everything.
Does aliens invading get him to rise out of his apathy?
Right. I'm interested to watch Battleship just to see what happens in Battleship, because what are you going to do with a Hasbro board game? B,
A15.
Rihanna. That's the main thing.
And he's continued to shoot stuff for Rihanna. In 2014, he was shooting some sort of video for Rihanna in Nice. Nice, is that what it's called? Nice, France.
Nice, I think, I think Nice or Nice. I'm not sure.
It's nice.
in 2014, he was filming something for Rihanna in France, and he was at the Bastille Day truck terror attack. He had just finished filming Patriots Day. So this guy is like somehow.
I think he did it so that he could make a movie about it later. He was running out of material.
One other thing in 2014 that happened is that Burke wrote an article called "Why My Son Is No Longer Allowed to Play Football" about CTE, which was I thought was also very interesting. So the guy who seemed to popularize it,
10 years later, only just a short distance, and only like 2 years removed from the TV show ending.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Huh.
Although, I mean, the NFL was hiding CTE from everybody that whole time.
Also true.
So.
Yes. And interesting. I will say that might actually be something in his favor, to that his views had evolved in some way. But he seems like he really struck gold with Friday Night Lights. And I think being an executive producer and just letting other creators and the actors kind of do their thing and sort of improv a lot of stuff was really the saving grace of the show to me.
There was a lot of improv on the movie too. He talked about.
Was there really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. The other thing I learned from Peter Berg is that he got to know the locals in Odessa because of the time he spent at the local gentlemen's club, the Jaguar Club. So if you're in Odessa, Texas, check out sponsor of Reliving the Lights, Jaguar Club. And he gave the guy who plays the sheriff in the movie, like, you remember when he like drives up next to the like Billings and Chavez and they're eating the burritos and drinking the chocolate milk. That's the actual sheriff of Odessa, and he gave him like this bit part cameo to get on his good side because he figured he'd get into trouble while he was in. Wow. If you find me naked at 4 a.m. on the highway, like
just remember I got you in my movie.
That's what he said. So
yikes.
I feel like that all fits pretty well with what you just described.
Yeah, no kidding.
In terms of, I do want to say one positive thing about Peter Berg and the filmmaking style of this movie, because we've been trashing him for a solid half hour.
Fantastic. Yes.
In real time.
Yeah.
But one thing I did really dig, and it's one thing that the TV show does a lot as well, but there was one shot especially that I really liked. It's when Booby gets re-injured. When he goes back in and he gets re-injured, and there's like, you see it happen on the field, and then it like pans to the crowd and his uncle is standing up, and it like zooms in on him being really concerned. Like, that had to have been a really tight choreographed thing. I was really impressed, like, seeing that particular shot.
Yeah,
really, the way they shot all the football was cool.
It was
so
good.
And you got to give it to him. You got to think dudes rock to be that good at filming football.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is ultimately the separate the art from the artist thing. Can you do it or not? Like, it is a good movie.
It looks
ultimately
great.
I enjoyed the movie while I was watching it, and I like talking about it. It gives me enough to say that I think it's good.
I was very sad often throughout the movie just because of how bleak it is, but I thought it looks awesome, and like, it is incredibly engaging basically the entire time, which is exhausting.
I really loved, I just want to talk about scenes I really liked, and we kind of talked earlier about how kind of the precursor to this movie was Remember the Titans. Like, that was the football movie, like when we were in high school, like that was the football movie, and to this day it's pretty high. You know, people hold that to a pretty high.
You're going to see that one rerunning on cable TV more than any other football movie.
I think the soundtrack really carried a lot of weight for that movie.
For Remember the Titans?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was like 50 songs.
Neither here nor there, but
I was going to
think
say that was basically the Forrest
the
Gump soundtrack, but a few years later. Right?
I was gonna say it's basically how like Guardians of the Galaxy, got the Hooked on a Feeling song back.
Yep. I mean, if you want to put soundtracks head to head, though, I'm taking the Friday Night Lights soundtrack every dang time.
Well, I know you will.
It's my favorite soundtrack of all time. One of my favorite albums of all time.
They got the Stooges in
Sorry,
there.
we got off. Go ahead.
But I like the party scene. There's a scene where like the first thing you see is like a downward shot from above of a beer bong like being filled. Sloshing. And then there's the scene of the girl who's like macking on the quarterback.
Winchell,
it was like, are you gay? Prove it if you're not. Like
how joyless is this whole endeavor in the sense that like even when a guy has sex, he just gets bullied into it. Like these guys cannot be filmed having fun for 1 second. It's just like
it's the very end with Winchell. It's literally the very end of the movie. He smiles. That's like literally the only time you see him smile.
Well, and
after
Booby
the
makes him
season
laugh
is done.
once.
He's finally
Bill
free
Cosby
from
impression.
He's free from the prison of football. That's the trick.
And then he passes the curse to the kids.
Yep.
That's
your
right.
problem now, kids.
Have fun.
That's it. He's handing off the problem of football to a new generation. He can leave it behind.
Which I think it was funny that he was the one who was worried that he was cursed. And it's like, you are, dude. Like,
correct.
It's called living in Texas and having everybody like force you to make football your entire life.
Right.
You have to play football to get a job as a surveyor. Sorry.
Sorry.
Only your football friends can get you this job. It's like joining a fraternity in college.
Right.
It's mainly marketing.
But I love it. And then of course there's later in that scene where is it Billingsley he's with what's her name, and then Tim McGraw comes in and like basically goes ham on him. Like probably I think that to me was the scariest like alcoholism scene in the movie.
Yep, definitely.
Where then the kids just like, just go back to bed, Dad, please. Like just let me have this. And he's like duct taping his hands to hold the football.
Yeah.
And it's just real
Once
trouble.
again, can't be seen having fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kept thinking of that throughout the whole thing of like, even if you would put together how much time they spent on the games where they lost versus the games that they won, all the games that they won for the most part, they just kind of breezed through them. It's like, they won. It was good. And then all the games they lost, like, let's spend a lot of time seeing the kids suffer and be miserable and be disappointed. And it's like, isn't this the only time they're going to have fun? Like, isn't that what they keep getting told every 5 seconds? And sorry, while I'm going on that, I gotta talk about the ending of the movie. For those who, I don't know if we're following along for even attempting to describe the plot of the movie effectively or not, but they get in the playoffs, they go through the playoffs, they play Dallas Carter, this really big school, and they get to halftime of the game. And the speech that Billy Bob Thornton, the coach, makes at halftime absolutely blew my mind, because the whole time, the whole season, they've been going on about, you got to be perfect, you got to win. The only thing that matters is winning the state championship. If you don't win the state championship, you're nothing. And then he gets to halftime of the last game of the season, and he's like, hey guys, here's the thing. Winning isn't actually everything. It's about whether or not you tried your best.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there, I'm like, are you joking? Like, like you're just gonna like pull their, like, is this like a giant society-wide prank to basically, and like on one hand, I kind of get it because they're kind of right. It's like, if you have a problem, put it into football. Like, if you want to get a job, put it into football. If you want your dad to like you, put it into football. Like, no matter what it is, there's only one solution, and it's football. And we have to all convince ourselves that it is literally about winning, because that's the only way that you actually can do your best. You know what I mean? It's just like, you actually have to be focused on the result. And then at the end, it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, it's just about whether or not you tried your best.
Yeah. My 3-month rug pull is complete.
Yeah. And it's like, they seem to respond to it really well. So I don't know why, like you're talking about the preseason and how he was basically like kind of adding to what the whole town was saying about how literally the only thing that matters is if we win a state championship. And it's like, I feel like he could have been dropping that in there a lot sooner, like going with the Bill Belichick model of like, whether you actually win the game is secondary to whether or not you like did your job effectively moment to moment, and it's like, they just thought they'd wait till the end. Just, I don't know. That really just got to me. I don't know why.
I did like his thing about how it did not make sense in the context of the rest of the season, but I did like his thing about how like the difference between winning and losing really isn't that much.
Yeah,
like that was actually pretty cool.
It was super like inspiring and stuff.
Yeah. So,
but I was just like, man,
gotcha. Maybe
where were
lead
you
with
earlier? Maybe lead with that. Like, I don't know. I just kept, because in a movie that depicts this kind of situation, like an attempting to describe a society or like a whole town or whatever, like you got to have like the ethos, and usually you have something on like the counter side of what's being shown to you or like what people are telling you constantly. And the wife was kind of the only person who was like, maybe there's something else, and I just kept thinking like, man, like Billy Bob Thornton as their coach, or Coach Gaines or whatever you want to call him, he's really on the side of all of the people who we're being led to believe are like unhinged. Like he doesn't really tell the kids anything that disagrees with what like all the super rich guys are telling him, or all these guys really mean dads are telling them. He's pretty much just like, yeah, they're all right. Here's how you tackle, by the way. And I was just like waiting for somebody to be on the other side, and then he does right at the end.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, he's built his entire life around this whole model. Like he literally only matters. And nothing matters for him and his family except whether that team wins or not.
And I think that's why I just was thinking of it at the end, that I was like, man, it's one thing to say it after they lose, but to say it at halftime, it makes it seem like you're kind of saving it for like a really important situation. And I'm like, and then I was just starting to think of it strategically. Like it can't be good strategically to literally only ramp up the pressure on kids. Like they're all gonna have mental breakdowns. And so I just like, I don't know.
Turns out that is bad. And it is funny because I like to think that they suddenly play better because suddenly the coach has finally lifted the weight off of all of their collective shoulders. Like
that's how I felt.
Have you considered that maybe you don't have to win?
Well,
and
or
they're just like, oh, we can just play.
Or just letting them in on the secret, which is basically that whether you win or lose at football does help you with all these other things like getting into a college. And by the way, you're there. Like the whole thing is getting to, like, once you get to the state championship, people who know football kind of know that it's like, yeah, basically everybody who makes the state championship game is pretty much as good as everybody else. And so it's like, here's the thing, you're there, you can kind of relax now. Like you're going to get a scholarship either way. Like if you were going to get one, it's pretty much locked in at this point. So have fun. For the first time ever.
You've got like 20 minutes of game time to enjoy here.
Yeah.
Enjoy your final 2 quarters.
Your whole life is building up to this, and it ends in about an hour.
Let's dive into, I think, something really important for this show, Reliving the Lights. There are 2 sort of returning characters between the movie and the show that are not necessarily returning characters, but returning actors.
Oh yeah,
loosely returning characters. Yeah,
right. So
I think you could say returning characters in the sense that they both feel like literally exactly the same.
Yeah. So
they didn't have to change any notes other than name.
We've got Brad Leland as the head of the boosters. John Aubrey, who is basically Buddy Garrity dialed down to like 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they ever actually say his name out loud? I don't. That does not
It
sound
probably
familiar.
didn't have to because it wasn't as good as Buddy Garrity.
Right.
Yeah.
Buddy Garrity is an all-timer name.
If they had given him more time, he would have absolutely blossomed into the Buddy Garrity. The Buddy Garrity character we know and love.
For sure. Like the scene outside of Walmart when they pull up in like the Mazda Miata or whatever it was, like crappy little sports car, and basically tell coach like if he doesn't win state he's gonna lose his job, and that'd be a real shame.
like two members of the mob that own a car dealership.
Yeah, it's very Buddy.
Is a total Buddy Garrity moment.
Quick fun fact: the assistant principal of Permian High School was named Buddy, and they said he was instrumental in kind of bridging the gap between both Buzz and Peter Berg and the community, because apparently the community hates Buzz Bissinger now and hates Peter Berg for the book and the movie. Buzz Bissinger said he hasn't been back because he'd be beat up. Like literally, he knows he would be beat up if he.
Did you see too that like I don't know who would have made this deal with them for making the movie, that basically they were only going to let them do it if they didn't make the town seem as racist as it was in the book.
I did not see that.
They basically had to, I don't know what kind of deal that would entail, but
they didn't do a very good job with what they did with Dallas Carter and that whole scene.
Well, apparently the town was more explicitly racist in the book and in real life.
You only got that one glimpse at that like booster dinner or whatever that was, where they used the N-word. Which was pretty shocking.
And because they didn't really show they didn't really describe the school as being like there were kids who were all friends with each other, you know, like it. So, and there wasn't anything like kids weren't really mean to each other. So I'm sure that was a lot of what they took out.
Yeah.
Texas in 1988.
It seems weird to me that if that was a nod to this assistant principal that they really loved, that they gave it to the character of Buddy Garrity.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Buddy is friendly. You got to give him that.
Buddy, the one thing you can actually say about Buddy is that he is good at forging bonds between people who, or like kind of being a bridge between people who would never get along or talk in a million years. Somehow he is the guy who is like, I've communicated with to the people with the money, and they wanted you, the people that they're giving the money to do this thing, and I'm the messenger, and I don't feel bad about it because I have no shame because I am Buddy Garrity.
It's a unique role in every community.
Someone's got to do it. Might as well be Buddy.
But then we also have Connie Britton as Gary Gaines' wife.
Lovely.
Mrs. Coach.
As charming as ever. As delightful as ever.
You really want to give her more.
She love
really
to
is
see
Tammy.
her.
She's just Tammy. And
she's just Tammy.
I think they basically told her, like, do exactly what you did, but we're going to give you 5 seasons worth to actually do it.
Yeah.
They even named her in the commentary as the unsung hero of the movie, which I think goes right along with what we wouldn't call her the unsung hero of the TV show. She's just possibly definitely in the top 2 or 3 for MVP of the entire series.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel
undersung.
I feel like the development from the movie to the TV show, a lot of it was probably like, okay, we need to make this into a TV show. It can't be as bleak. I know. Let's just get a lot more Connie Britton.
Yeah.
Just like
it can't be as
like
bleak.
5,000% more.
We need to let women talk at least a little bit more. So I feel like Connie Britton is the answer to
let's
both
give these guys some girlfriends. Let's give the wife a reason to like know what these kids have going on and make her the guidance counselor. And boom.
Hey, that's a lady I wouldn't hate to hear talk. Why don't we just have her do it?
Well,
that was good
movie,
last time.
There's a scene where she's like, what about Alaska? I bet they don't take football serious in Alaska, which is like, that happens in like the first season of Friday Night Lights. Too, right? Where she's like, what if we went to Philadelphia or something?
Yeah, or like Washington, or I don't know.
That was a good poll.
Yeah, I still can't remember where they actually end up at the end of the series, but it's one of Connie Britton's places that she wants to go. Mrs. Coach's place that she wants to go because they don't care as much about football. So really, this dream started in the actual movie, and it's realized finally at the finale of the series.
Considerably happier ending.
The whole series is a long show about a family deciding to move. Just what goes into that.
Can I give a brief football aside? I see trending on Twitter, football team at Cowboys, and I keep forgetting that They are going by Washington Football Team.
I love it.
Which truly, I mean, way to just cut to the end. Don't even just bother with the middle part.
Yeah, I hope they don't change it. I hope they just
be Washington Football Team.
I mean, it's kind of what soccer teams do, though, right? Like
it's all about the
Barcelona FC or whatever. You know,
I feel like
Washington FT, I guess, is what they would be. But
it's just funny to see football team at Cowboys, and it seems like is that
why wouldn't they put Washington at Cowboys?
What part? Yeah.
I think it's great. I literally hope they never.
Okay,
I hope they just stick with.
While we're talking about that, can we talk about the Mojo thing?
Yeah,
Mojo.
I am baffled by
the Mojo. Explain Mojo to me.
What is happening? Are they the Panthers?
They're the Panthers. For some reason, that high school was like called Mojo. That was like the nickname for the high school.
It must have been like one of those like inside bits that like grew into a major thing. It's kind of like, so SDSU, like we're agricultural institute, and there's like, you remember that that classic SNL bit with Christopher Walken where he's like, I've got a fever and the only fear is more cowbell. SDSU kind of like adopted that as their own thing. Like when I graduated, I got a small cowbell in the mail for my department.
All right.
I think it's kind of like that, like where they're like
saying Mojo is their equivalent of banging a cowbell.
Yeah.
Great.
That's my theory. That's my theory.
Yeah. No, because it seems like it's not like their mascot or whatever. It's just like their slogan,
right?
Or like their catchphrase.
Actually, here's my fan theory.
Come on.
Somebody in Odessa, Texas, time traveled to 1999 and watched Austin Powers: The Spy Who Shagged Me, and was like, "Hold on,
I got an even better.
Love this.
Yeah. I got an even better theory. Austin Powers himself. I don't know if you remember in the second movie, time travels back to 1969, and gave it to someone from Odessa, Texas.
There it is.
I mean, Austin Powers is from the 60s, right? That's the whole bit.
That's yes, absolutely. But I'm saying that like he changed. I want to make it more complicated.
Okay. He came into the future, saw that he didn't like the Friday Night Lights movie, and he thought, I need to influence this for the better. Went back, told them about Mojo.
They keep calling it Permian, baby. Why don't you just call it Mojo?
I buy that.
But realistically, somebody in Texas was probably just really into Muddy Waters. That's Got My Mojo working song.
That's got to be it.
I went to PermianPanthersFootball.com/whatismojo, and maybe I'll just read what it says here.
Please.
In 1969, Austin Powers.
It goes back to 1967.
Scrappy Doo is missing in Miami.
Fictional character Austin Powers traveled through time to the city of Odessa.
I cannot wait for the Austin Powers Friday Night Lights crossover sequel. He coaches the team or something.
Clear eyes,
smash, baby.
Clear eyes, baby. Full hearts, baby.
I love how Austin Powers' impression is just adding baby on the end.
That's right. That's all I got. I don't even do accents.
Clear eyes, groovy hearts, baby. Can't lose. My British accent is atrocious, but I'm glad that you're willing to bring it along with it.
Great.
All right, here's what it says. Stories about the origin and meaning of mojo as it pertains to Permian football are numerous. So numerous, in fact, that another website could likely be devoted to that subject alone. I feel like that's us saying like that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself, which comes up a lot.
I think we've got a Juicy Lucy situation in our hands where like there's like 2 or more places that claim the origin.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, here's where it gets into it. One theory is that a fan was heard to say after a big comeback victory, we really had our mojo working, from the popular Muddy Waters blues song of the same name. So that was definitely a shout out when Buddy is I got my voodoo working in the first season.
Absolutely.
Another version of the story is that several overserved, in quotation marks, overserved alumni started the yell and it took off from there. Whatever the story is, generally accepted that mojo was first yelled during a game in 1967 And by the next year, the battle cry was being yelled in unison at all games. So it absolutely could be Austin Powers.
1967, as you know, as you may or may not know. So the first Austin Power movie came out in 1997, and he had been frozen in time for 30 years. So he went into freezing in 1967.
Oh boy.
I think we've unlocked it.
I'm going to see if I can find like an email or some way to contact the person who runs this website and let them know we figured out.
I feel like in most of these situations where there's like an urban legend and no one's quite sure where it came from, I always assume it's the most boring one.
Yeah.
And that people just wanted to make up a bunch of stuff to make it more interesting. I really buy that it's just a bunch of drunk guys. Like someone said it, someone else was like, dude, yeah, Mojo. And they just yelled it.
I would not be surprised if that's
Zero thought. Zero
I'm 100%
meaning.
sure that that's how the Cowbell SDSU thing started. It was a bunch of drunk dudes who'd watch like the best of Christopher Walken on VHS.
Absolutely.
20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Remember in high school state basketball when someone would make a free throw, and it might have been somebody particular, we would like do this backward salute and we'd go hoit, hoit, hoit. Like it's probably one of those things. I think it was when Austin Dufresne made a free throw. We would go like this and go hoit, hoit, hoit. So
I don't remember that
like
at all.
try and
That's not
explain
ringing a bell
that.
at
Try
all.
and like
Yeah, that's nonsense.
it's probably the same kind of thing. Like just
Imagine if that caught on and in 30 years people were still doing it.
and trying to explain why.
Like adults
It's
were like saying a hoit all the time, being like, well, here's how that went down, and just lying.
right. It was Austin Powers.
Some people think that there was a player called Hoyt that played for the Black Panthers.
Some people
There's
think
no record of him, but
some people think it was based on the song that, some artist that features the word hoit.
We did have a cheer that was based on a song, and that was "Drop It Like It's Hot." When this is what we do for Austin Dufresne. When he made a free throw, we'd go, "Do."
Yes, I remember that.
before we go into awards, I want to talk about this trivia that's on the IMDb.
Yeah.
The real life Brian Chavez did go to Harvard and got a law degree, but then he moved back to Odessa and started going to Permian football games with one of his old teammates, longing for the old glory days on the field. One day, angered by a historic Permian loss in a heated rivalry game, Chavez rounded up a posse, broke into a house party, and started brawling with the attendants. His motivation? His girlfriend's ex-husband was at the party and had been fighting with her over the phone while Chavez was trying to watch the game. Chavez was eventually forced to plead guilty to burglary with intent to commit assault and had to settle lawsuits with the victims. Although he avoided jail time, he did have his law license invalidated by the state of Texas. He has since turned his life around, but this incident had ultimately proved that the pull of Permian high school football was too much for even the smartest and most crowded player to escape.
Ooh,
I also,
that is some editorializing right there.
I also read that one last week, and I was like, this is the guy that went to Harvard, first of all.
They
and then
like-
also, real editorializing at the end there. I agree.
Yeah.
The movie made a real effort to like point out like this is the guy that's gonna get out. This is the guy that doesn't have to worry
Or that
about
doesn't
it.
really even need football to get out.
Boy. Yeah, they should almost like re-edit the end of the movie just to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Like, nope, it actually does suck. 100%. There's no
Like,
escape.
It should just be Brian Chavez got out, went to Harvard, but then came back. Turns out.
And it went as bad as you might think.
And then it's just Friday Night Lights 2, the Brian Chavez story.
All right, so we're going to take this in a more traditional Reliving the Lights form here, and we are going to force our awards from the TV show onto the movie. I think we make it happen regardless of if it makes sense or not. So we usually start with the Coach Taylor inspo rating of the episode. So I guess we got to go with Coach Gaines on this.
Yep.
The Coach Gaines inspo rating. We've already kind of covered it. Not a terribly inspiring guy.
Yeah.
Tyler,
No.
I feel like you have thought about this quite a bit.
I had strong opinions. He wildly tries to ramp it up at the end, but it's too late.
Yeah. They don't pull off the win. Coach Taylor got them to a state championship, but Coach Gaines fell short. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, they just don't have enough time to really give him a lot of good scenes of ramping it up. At the end is really the whole thing is built around his character just like having that last final say, and the rest of it is just the pressure of him being a coach. He doesn't get a chance to inspire much otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, if we were rating Billy Bob Thornton as an actor and his performance, I'd say it was pretty darn solid. That was good.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's not the award.
No.
He inspired me as an actor myself.
As a fellow actor, I'd love to act like that.
He inspired me as a person by dating Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Right.
Give him some credit there.
And then in this movie, being married to Connie Britton. That's probably the most inspiring thing about Gaines. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's inspiring.
Anthony, I feel like you usually set our baseline for this rating. So I don't know. What are you feeling?
Giving him a lot. I'm going to give him a 4.
They did win a lot of games. So.
I was gonna give him a solid 5. Not too good, not too bad, right in the middle. I think that last one really brought it up, but before that he didn't. There were a lot of middle games where he was just yelling and sad, and it just didn't do it for me. So really, I think it just right down the middle for me.
I think that sounds fine to me, because as much as I like to give him a hard time, he did convince Mike not to believe in curses. That's
right. We should. I mean, the scene where he is meeting in Mike's bedroom, which is weird. Which is what I thought when I was like, I don't know, but I'm having trouble remembering the content of that. But it was the curse talk.
Mm-hmm.
Would we?
I think
consider
ultimately,
that, is that positive or negative in the inspirational category?
I think it's a positive, because ultimately, the coach is living in a different world than the coach in the show. He is living in a world that is even more bleak. And so his role is to inspire these kids to put literally everything they have into the thing that actually will get them somewhere. Yeah. So he does that, even though it's sad.
I feel like Coach Gaines doesn't seem to have a large effect on the success or failure of the team in this movie.
Yeah.
So I feel like a 5 is pretty fair. He does his job. He works with what he's got and has pretty good success with it. So, all right, the Coach Gaines Inspirating of the Week, we're going to nail down at a 5.
And he's stuck there for all eternity.
Yeah, there's no, that's it. That's all you get, man.
Until Friday Night Lights 2, where we get a peek at the 89 season, where he won state.
But that, I'm pretty sure they were coached by Austin Powers that season. So, what Julie Taylor Hate-O-Meter? What are we gonna do with that?
So he does have a daughter, and she isn't one scene.
Right. She's got terrible bangs. That's what I know.
We gotta assume that her name is Julie, but she does make kind of a fun joke. So, and here's where I admit that I don't really hate Julie as much as you guys have. I really just remember her so much from season 1 being just kind of nice, and I know that
season 1 Julie,
but she was bad in season 2. But guess what? Literally every character in season 2 is garbage.
She's even worse in seasons 3 and 5. 3 through 5
is a nightmare.
Yep. She gets worse, man.
No, she gets worse. She gets so much worse after season 2.
I understand, but I really, the Julie Hate-O-Meter never really jived with me. So
Josh
and
I are most of the way through season 2 recording wise, and she has not received a 10 yet, and she will receive 10s.
It's a slow burn.
Yeah,
I was perusing the Friday Night Lights Reddit today, and there was a post that was just solely this guy just freaking out about how bratty and entitled and terrible Julie Taylor is in season 4. Like, that was the entire post. He just had to get it out. And
I am very intrigued to see that.
Yeah.
Or to just kind of hear more about season 4.
Julie Taylor sucks.
It's terrible.
In those later seasons, real bad.
I think for the movie, I mean, I feel like we got to just give her a straight 0.
Yeah. I think
basically non-existent.
Yeah.
I was gonna put her on the positive end just a little bit, just because she did get like one good line. Do I remember what it is? No, but like
So
I remember it being a vaguely positive interaction, but I would be willing to say 0 because there wasn't any negative.
She has bad bangs.
True.
Ooh, that
I
is
think
one
it
answer.
evens out.
But it was
So-
the
Yeah.
80s.
Ooh, that's right.
But Connie
What is it,
Britton,
87?
Connie Britton.
Oh, she
great
had terrible hair in the
but
movie.
she made it look good.
True.
Well, because she's Connie
Right.
Britton.
I just pulled up Friday Night Lights again, and one of the top posts is the official Julie is annoying thread.
Wow.
Yeah. Julie
So-
Taylor sucks, dude.
Jordan just was not paying attention later
No.
seasons.
By that point, I was checked out. I won't lie.
But let the record
anything
show that
past
we,
season 3.
as much as we hate Julie, we love Amy Teagarden. Please come on the show.
Oh my goodness. Yes. But another one of the posts on top posts on the Friday Night Lights Reddit is Tyra and Lila's names so similar. And I could not count the amount of times we have screwed up Tyra and Lila's name.
Angie
So,
regularly calls Tyra Twyla, which is, I'm pretty sure, not a real name.
Twyla's totally a name.
Twyla sounds like a real backwoods name to me. So it really
Yeah.
it makes hearing that name makes Tyra less attractive to me, which is about as hard as can be. Like it doesn't take. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to give Daughter Gaines I think we just go with 0.
A
It
solid
evens
0,
out.
I think
Yeah,
is fine.
We're
Yeah.
neutral on her. All right. The Big Rig beer tally.
Anyone keeping track?
I know. Okay. So Billingsley, I'm pretty sure he was pouring liquor in his cup when they were at the diner.
Yep. He was for sure.
So
And I'm sure he was drinking at the party, right?
But do they show it?
Good question.
I couldn't remember if he was one of the people on the kegs.
And here's the question for you. Big Rig maybe implies that another Rig could also be doing it as long as you have the name Rig. And we do know that the dad was definitely drinking in this too. So you might be able to have a collective count.
in the spirit of the award, we have never counted any of Pa Riggins or Billy Riggins as beers.
Yeah, that'd
and
be
we
out of control.
definitely could
That
have.
is fair.
So I think just to
I think
keep it.
I think the Riggins crew would really clean out a liquor store is what I'm saying.
Yes, for sure.
They once did for a big party. That
They had a
They
big
did.
party.
They
Right,
bought
that's right. I forgot about the party.
obscene amount of liquor.
And you didn't for that say that the Big Rig beer tally was 20 kegs. So
Yeah, that's right.
It's not
Yeah.
fair to start now.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
But I would say that the Riggins held to the Don Billingsley standard. I mean, it's pretty
sure.
clear that
Absolutely.
Don Billingsley
For
was a
sure.
party boy for sure. So I don't know that we have an official tally here, but Garrett Hedlund also in Country Strong with Tim McGraw. So
and
to get it on the pod.
Lucas Black also in Sling Blade with Billy Bob
Yes.
Thornton.
yes,
These guys
And
all learned
all-
how to talk with a southern accent and just kept doing it.
they just ride with that. Let's see. How about the Alamo Freeze presents the Matt Saracen Aw Shucks Goofus Maloofus moment of the week?
Oh, definitely when he has to prove that he's not
Yep.
gay by
That's
For
by
sure.
having sex with that girl, but he's still the whole time is literally just tripping over his own dick, trying like, well, I don't know, should I? This girl does this girl like me? What's going on? Like,
That's-
yes, man, come on, just like
Definitely
Just
the
give her a
kind,
kiss.
definitely the kind of situation that Matt Saracen finds himself
Absolutely.
in very regularly.
He's defensive about it as if she's pulling a prank on him by talking to him.
Yeah.
it is definitely the moment where Mike Winchell channels Matt Saracen the most. That
For
is the Matt Saracen moment. So that's for sure it. Another creepy moment of Peter Berg and Buzz Bissinger, whatever the heck his name is, was during that scene when she kisses him at the end. She's like, "Oh, that girl can kiss. Oh yeah, whoa boy. What?
Ugh.
Yeah, she's got a
Troubling.
boyfriend and he was mad about that one."
Trouble.
Ugh.
These guys are creeps.
So-
The Buddy Garrity Sleazeball Movie of the Week. What was his actual name? John Aubrey.
Aubrey.
The John Aubrey Sleazeball Movie of the Week.
Got to be the pull up at Walmart.
Oh, for sure, the Walmart parking lot. It's not even close. He's like all but threatening him. Like,
yes,
he's pretty much saying everything but we will literally carry you out of town on a rail.
Yeah, and he's being friendly, but like kind of annoyingly
menacingly
talkative,
friendly.
Yeah.
Well, but most of the other scenes, he's just being like an annoyance of just like, hey man, kind of like leave me alone. Like I'm trying to work, and you want to tell me how to coach the team constantly.
Right.
But then he in this one, he really is just like, hey, by the way, I could get you fired.
Yeah.
That was definitely it. Notable music cues.
I gotta go. Stooges, I Want to Be Your Dog. That was mine.
There was some good music.
I love that song.
I think Run DMC, It's Tricky was mine.
Ooh,
Tricky was very good. I personally loved Bring the Noise with Anthrax in Public Enemy.
Chuck D, Public Enemy,
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, how about Booby Miles' freaking awesome Public Enemy coat that he was wearing?
Yeah.
That was extremely cool.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, I could never wear it. None of us could ever wear it, but
no. Still, I can
awesome.
admire from afar.
I was going to give my musical cue. I was going to go out of left field a little bit and say, I don't know if you guys know about this band Explosions in the Sky. But
I mean...
But for real, this is kind of the thing that introduced them into
for sure
the mainstream.
That's how I became aware of them.
Yeah, same here. Did you know that they're actually they're from Midland, Texas? They went to Midland Lee.
Oh, whoa, you're kidding. That's cool.
Wow, they're real traitors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making propaganda for the other team.
I actually, though, I bet that had to have been like a genuinely like semi-difficult decision for them to make. I bet they had to like really like think about
unless they hated all the jocks in their school.
There was a former Permian Panther. So they ended up hiring like a lot of former Permian Panthers to play the other teams like coaches and stuff because they got so sick of like actors being bad at being coaches that then they actually just like hired a bunch of former Permian Panthers. But one of the Midland Lee assistant coaches was a Permian Panther, and they talked about how hard it was for him. Like, all right, you're going to be in this movie, but here's what you have to wear, and it'd be like giving us a Gregory Gorillas shirt, you know?
Yeah,
it's
can't do it.
I'm not sure about this.
We'll pay you. Okay.
So the obvious answer is definitely Explosions in the Sky, and you got to think that Explosions in the Sky owes a lot of their success to this movie,
for sure.
Right? I mean, I think they would have been fairly popular on their own, but I think this is what really...
I think they would have found a niche on their own. I don't think they would have been exposed in the way that they are without this movie.
If nothing else, I think getting their music license for both a movie and a TV show kept them from being poor for the rest of their lives.
For sure.
Yep.
I will say, in terms of Explosions in the Sky, Josh, you and I saw Explosions in the Sky in concert in 2017.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the turnout at that show suggests that definitely this movie and the TV show helped them out a lot because it was criminally under attended.
I could not believe how few people were at that show.
I know. It was insane.
Unbelievable. Yeah. My wife's favorite concert of all time. Definitely in my top
really
5 or 3.
It was great. It was a very, very, very good show.
Yes.
For sure.
We don't have to pick a winner for this category. We usually don't. So those are just
I like the idea of us all having a different pick.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, I'm sticking with the Stooges. I will not yield.
I mainly liked Bring the Noise because that was on the Tony Hawk or Tony Hawk 2 soundtrack. So I listened to that song a lot when I was in high school.
Yep.
All right. Outdated pop culture reference of the week / canceled corner. Anything we want to cancel or any?
It is almost unfair because the fact is, it is set in 1987.
Bill Cosby impression.
Bill Cosby impression.
That's both outdated and canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good Bill Cosby impression, though.
He did do very well. Yeah, I think that's a good answer right there.
That's
we'll
really
go
great.
with that.
Mhm.
There wasn't a ton of pop culture.
Other than that jacket,
That
which
jacket,
was amazing.
yeah. Which I wouldn't say was outdated. I feel like that would, if you wore that jacket now, people would be like, "Damn, that's a sweet jacket."
I think, and Josh, you'll probably agree with me on this. Maybe the Ericksons less. The scene where Booby Miles is, I think it's the official moment, which I think in time it would have been, where Nike overtook as like the shoe. There's that whole scene where Booby Miles is like, "Oh, you're wearing," I don't remember if he's wearing Adidas or Reeboks, but he's like,
Adidas, yeah.
You gotta wear black Nikes.
Oh,
like,
man.
that's the shoe. So I think that would have been around that time, because it would have been like 3 years after the Air Jordan 1. So I think by that time, like Nike was basically the shoe for everything.
Because Adidas was really popular with like early rap stuff. Like that was the brand for early hip hop stuff, and this would have been.
Well, yeah, because Run DMC had the My Adidas song, and Michael Jordan actually really wanted to sign with Adidas before he signed with Nike.
Yeah,
and then of course the rest with that is history, which we could make a whole nother podcast about. But we won't.
Those black Nike spikes looked exactly like the black Nike spikes that I had in high school football that Booby Miles was wearing. So apparently I was 15 years late on my football spike fashion. But man, quote of the episode.
My quote of the episode is when Mike is talking to the college recruiters and his mom is very desperate for him to just, he'll take whatever. And they ask him if he has fun playing football, and he's like, kind of forgets to respond for a second, and it's like, oh yeah, I love football.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then the guy is like, it's supposed to be fun, son. That was my favorite line of the movie. Just because I literally paused the movie at that moment and to look down and just like, wow, it's 25 minutes in and no one has even mentioned football being fun until now.
Yeah.
know? And I'm like, wow, that is indicative of what kind of movie or like what kind of scene is being depicted here.
The culture of the whole thing.
Yeah, I just forgot.
I actually did write that down, and right along those lines, another quote I wrote down was when they're shooting, shooting shotguns out in the middle of nowhere, and Chavez is like, "You got to lighten up. You're 17." And Don's like, "Do you feel 17?" And Mike says, "I don't feel 17." I wrote that down as kind of that same encapsulation.
That's good. Yeah.
I personally liked, I'm just kind of looking through the quotes right now, and one that did stand out to me is the end when they're kind of realizing they're done, and Brian Chavez says, "I'm gonna miss the heat," and Billingsley says, "I'm gonna miss the lights."
Yes.
And Chavez says, "Yeah, me too. Stay low, boys. Keep those feet moving." And Billingsley says, "Hey, Chavez, be perfect." Chavez says, "You be perfect. See ya, Mike." It's a nice little exchange there.
Mm-hmm.
I personally liked we could move to Alaska.
That was good.
Actually, nope. I know my favorite one. Sorry.
Yeah, go.
It's when the guy in the radio is like, "There's too much learning going on at this school."
This is a good one. I'm just once again looking through the quotes. Booby Miles saying, "I get straight A's. I'm an athlete." Reporter says, "In what subject?" Booby Miles says, "Hey, there's only one subject. It's football." Very Smash-esque quote.
Yeah, that's good. I would say, the other one that I wrote down was Coach says it's in the middle of the Dallas Carter game, maybe halftime. He's like, "What's it like out there?" And Rev says, "They're big, they're fast, they're dirty, plus they're fast." Coach like, "Yeah, you already said that." So yeah, not any major standouts. I like the show, but
it's very well written.
Yes, that's exactly.
I do want to make a note real quick because I forgot to mention this, and I had made a mental note of it until now. But that one connection, maybe the only true connection between the TV show and the movie, is that the radio guy is Slammin' Sammy Mead.
Yes, that was like right away, right?
Yeah, same.
Starting with my very first note was, we're starting with Slammin' Sammy.
Yeah, a real character who gets brought into the fictional world, who maybe in the intervening years between 1988 and 2006 moved from Odessa to the fictional town of Dillon.
Right.
Wolfman style.
Okay, so after quote of the episode, we gotta decide who's the MVP of the movie. The MVP.
Ooh, that's actually tough because everyone kind of gets equal share. And any of the main characters really get kind of an equal chance to shine in a lot of ways, and so it really seems pretty relative.
It's a real ensemble for sure.
I'd say Mike. I mean, he pretty much gets the most out of it. Like in terms of he has, I think he has the most clear character progression of like him reaching a point where he can actually manage to deal with all this pressure and like actually putting it all into football like you're supposed to, supposedly.
Yeah.
And he pretty much goes from, I mean, in terms of like even the role in the team, he goes from kind of being not as important, you know, to pretty much being the guy on offense at least. So I don't know.
And then by the end of the episode seems to be the one who like is most satisfied and able to let it go. The symbolic smile and tossing the problem of Texas high school football to the younger generation. I mean, he seemed like he's like, all right, I'm good now. Like, so yeah.
I don't know. It is a very well balanced in that way. Like even how we had a hard time figuring out who the main character could be, you know?
Yeah, right. Connie Britton, unsung hero, but
I was gonna say my MVP as always is Connie Britton.
We gotta weigh it for like voter fatigue.
Yeah.
I think Mike is probably. We'll go with that. I think that's probably the best call because it's.
I think that's pretty safe.
It's not Booby. It's not Coach Gaines. I don't even know who else you would even have in that conversation. So I think we'll go with Mike. It could have been Chavez because he actually had a successful life, but now we just found out that he really screwed that all up.
It turns out that he couldn't get that. You can take him out of Dylan, but you can't take Dylan out of him, even though you took him back into Dylan.
And
we can't judge his actions by what we know of in the future. We have to judge it by what's in the movie, and that's two separate things, I'd say.
Well, and I was just gonna say, in the movie, he doesn't even do that much.
Yeah,
like he's clearly like the kind of forgotten element for a lot of scenes.
So, yep. All right, Mike, I guess we'll give it to you.
Whatever. Camera guy, you know, director of photography.
Director of photography /
explosions in the sky, MVP of the movie.
Not Peter Berg, even though you did a good job with this movie. We are not gonna dudeliness, the concept of machismo. They're all MVPs.
The concept of dudes. I think everybody gets a fair shake in that one.
So much guys in this movie.
So much guys. Truly.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Our rating. It would be our episode rating, but this will be our rating for the movie. So we usually do this out of 10. So yeah, usually we're, rating the episodes against themselves, against the other episodes, but
rating this movie against all other movies.
Well, as I'll start it off here, and I will say that on one hand, it's not a terribly exciting movie. It is engaging, definitely, but it's not like revelatory in any specific way. But on the other hand, it sets out to execute a very specific idea of what a town and what football is, and I think it succeeds. So like it succeeded but I wasn't like wildly engaged this time around. I don't know if it has the same timelessness as I thought it maybe would have had back in 2004 when I watched it. But I'd give it maybe like a solid 6.
Yeah.
Like, and just because it's a little better than average, and I was glad to watch it again.
Yep.
Yeah, I pretty much mostly agree. I would maybe go. I'm gonna give it an extra point for being one of those types of movies where I think the things about it that are good have been since incorporated into other sports movies so well that we kind of just didn't notice that it was probably a big deal at the time. You know?
Yeah.
So I feel like even just the way it shot all of the action and the sports in the town, it, for like what you said, like for what it is, as just trying to be a clear-eyed depiction of a town that kind of sucks to live in, the visual way that it did it was very good. And the way that they showed the football, you know, I feel like is probably something that I would imagine if I would watch a football movie that was made before this or a football movie after this, you maybe could tell, you know, of like how they depict the action. So
Sure. Yeah.
So what's your rating?
7.
Okay.
I give it one more than you.
That's
Yeah,
right.
For that
Okay.
reason.
I was gonna say when this movie first came out, when I first saw it in the Platt Theater, it was my favorite sports movie of all time. I don't know if it still is for the same reasons that Tyler mentions. I think maybe there's some movies that have taken its conventions and done better with what it did. I can't think of a movie off the top of my head that I like more, but I'm sure that there are sports movies that I do like more now, excluding D2 The Mighty Ducks, which is of course a masterpiece.
A perfect movie.
Yeah.
By which all other movies are judged.
Yeah. But I'm going to go in the same realm as Tyler in that I was thinking I would give it a low, like a 7.2, somewhere in that, you know, a low 7.
I didn't know we were going with tenths.
Well, I
This changes everything.
well, I was originally going to go with a 7.5, so I was going to say 7.5. But Jordan's argument and your argument brought a little bit of sensibility to me, so I'm going to go I'll not a 7 even, but a low 7 for sure.
The official ranking scale of Reliving the Lights is not intense, but it is either strong or weak. So a strong 7 or a weak 7.
There we go.
So what
sounds like a weak 7 to me.
I personally accidentally stole, or not accidentally, but unintentionally stole the Anthony Fantano scale of rating things, where I'd say like strong 6 to a weak 7.
Yeah.
So that
just comes with being an Anthony.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we'll say a weak 7.
All Anthonys do this.
We can't help it.
For me, I think most sports movies, especially ones that are based on a true story, I think try to tell the story of what happened and tell the story of the season and tell the story of the team, which this movie definitely did. But I feel like more so than that, like I feel like this movie was trying to convey like not necessarily the events, but like the feeling of the town, the feeling of what it was like to be one of those guys. And so for that reason, I think even though it wasn't like the most exciting sports movie ever or whatever, like you said, Jordan, like not terribly entertaining, but definitely compelling. That I think, and it almost feels like a semi-documentary, you know, like a lot of sports movies are based on true stories, but I feel like this one, they tried to shoot almost like with somewhat of a documentary style. So I think it was probably really successful. And I think, well, I guess they're cousins, so Buzz is probably biased, but like, you know, Bissinger has said like this movie really captures what it was like to be on that team in that town in 1988. So I think it's, you know, was really successful at what it set out to do. I love this movie. We've been inching a little bit higher. If you would give it a 7.2, Anthony, I was going to give it a 7.5. Like this is definitely, you know, probably in my top third of movies. Like I really like this
for
movie.
sure.
I get what you're saying too about like a lot of sports movies do not attempt to get like the scope of the society that the sport is contained in. That's pretty ambitious.
Right.
So I think you got to give them props for that.
I think
I can't disagree there.
I think
that makes sense.
I think it's a movie with a lot to say and more than it even intended to say, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of our favorite So Much Movies things is when a filmmaker says something extremely unintentionally that they didn't even want to say, but the movie says it for them. And I do think that this does that a little bit. I don't think Peter Berg is entirely aware of all the things that he is, of just even how deep some of these problems go and how well he showed them. And so I'm willing to bump my, I think a solid 7 average. I don't mind that at all. Like, I think that's pretty good. Like, it's not, it's not Citizen Kane, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be a good sports movie, and I think it is. And if you're rating it against other sports movies, I think it is an exceptionally good sports
top tier for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so I like, it's not necessarily a strong 7 or a weak 7. We're going with solid 7. It is a solid 7 movie. I think that's a very fair rating.
Yep.
Well, that's it. That's all the awards. I feel like we just went all over the place and got into some good stuff, but
that's the So Much Movies experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
No focus.
Well, while we've got you, Tyler and Jordan, where can we find you both collectively and individually?
You can find my Twitter handle is Jordan Erickson, and I believe Tyler's is So Much Tweets.
Yep.
Is that right, Ty?
Yep.
And you can find our Twitter at So Much Movies. We have an Instagram, but we don't update it. You can find the podcast itself at soundcloud.com/So Much Movies Podcast. And you can find us on anywhere that podcasts are, Stitcher, Spotify.
You guys know about podcasts. You're listening to one.
The Apple, the Apple Podcasts.
I've heard
you
of that.
You know what's going on. We're in all those places, and we like to talk about how there are too many movies in the world, and we have to watch all of them slowly but surely. So,
yeah, truly one of my favorite shows. It's literally at the top of my podcast queue on my app. I'm a Stitcher guy myself, but So Much Movies is up top. Now that you're actually on Stitcher, you're welcome for that.
That's right. Thank you for helping us with that, by the way.
Yeah, you bet.
And we, eternally want to release more episodes, and I do think that we are getting into a rhythm of recording where we can actually get back into the swing of things. We've been pretty spotty lately, and no blame for anyone in the pandemic, but it's time for us to get back on the horse and just start talking about everything again. So it'll happen. Be prepared for a onslaught of movie opinions.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep moving if you want to watch all the movies. So
that's right.
I'm gonna start using the official Reliving the Lights Twitter to start sending "Where is the art" tweets at So Much Movies.
And for those who are fans of this, we've had Anthony on a couple times.
Oh yeah,
yes.
One of my
a guest a
favorite
number
So
of
Much
times.
Movies episodes.
We've been wanting to have Josh on
Son-in-law
pretty much
speaking.
since day one, but we might have to.
Now that this has been recorded successfully, we have a way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Well, good. It has been an excellent time. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
I'm guessing we'll have you on at some other point down the
Yes.
road. Maybe
An
just to
episode.
get Tyler, as you listen to season 2 and you've never actually watched it, maybe we'll get some of
Tyler,
your
just pick
perspective.
an episode in season 3.
Yep.
Watch it out of context.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
come on the pod.
Good.
I definitely would like to see Peter Berg directed season 4, episode 1, and I think that would
There
be
you
an
go.
interesting one to jump back in on
Yeah.
and see what changed between season 1, episode 1, and season 4, episode
Ooh, I
1,
like that.
or if anything had.
Like that. Then we can crap on Peter Berg for another hour and a half. It'll be awesome.
Buddy, I am there.
Sounds good to me. All right, fellas. Thank you so much. And to all of you out there listening, thank you guys for sticking with us on these couple of special episodes between season 1 and season 2. Be looking for season 2 coming up real soon. Shout out to the West Indies. We love you guys. I think that's all we got for tonight.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining.
Let's touch God this time, boys. Let's touch God.